Well, I guess it's about that time, ain't it? It's about time to talk some sports, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome. Hello, upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, the world. It is great to be with you again. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. How do you do? Upstate South Carolina, it is great to be with you once again. I am Rob Brown, the host of the award-winning Rob Brown Show right here on ESPN Upstate. Directly across the glass from me, the conductor of the symphony of sound that is the Rob Brown Show, the alpha and the omega of ESPN Upstate, Colonel Grudge, hashtag Dad Kicks. He is the great one, my co-host and executive producer, ladies and gentlemen, Lonzo at the hell. What up, Zoe?
Thinking of adding some polka to the bumper rotation just to see if the suits down the hall notice.
I will tell you that yesterday I went downstairs, not because I wanted to, but because we got an email that said, hey, there's cookies in the break room. And I'm fat. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go get a cookie. And I heard the big boss downstairs. The big boss is in the office and he's talking to one of the young ladies from the sales staff. And I popped my head in, thinking, well, if he's firing somebody, this is going to be awkward, but I'm sure he's not. So I'm just going to say hello. And I pop my head in and he goes, hey, come here. I was like, uh-oh, not ideal. He goes, hey,
which is why you don't pop your head in. Yeah. You move quickly past the office. Yeah. That's what you do.
In retrospect, you hear the big boss in his real serious news voice, like you move, but me being dumb, I just pop my head in. I'm like, hey, what's up, boss? He goes, hey, come here. And he calls me in the office. I'm like, well, it's been a good ride, everybody. I've had a good time here. And he goes, I had to talk to you. And I said, all right. And he says, I listened to your show for 40 minutes yesterday. Now, Lonzo, if somebody listens to the show for 40 minutes, there's one of two reasons why in his position. Number one is he was enjoying the show. 10% chance. 90% chance is I listened to your show for 40 minutes yesterday, and here is the Chris Jericho list of things that you did that I did not like, and I want them fixed or you're fired.
By the way, it was a really long list, and if you want to see how long the list was, you should be watching on the stream ESPN Upstate on Facebook.
I interpretively act out everything I do.
He did. It was amazing.
One day I'll add an Emmy and an Oscar to the Star Award that we won.
I actually saw everything on the list. It was extensive.
So he says, I listened to your show for 40 minutes yesterday. And I said, that seems good, right? Just trying to steer the conversation. And he goes,
no, you should have put your hand out and said, you're welcome. Yeah. That's what you should have done.
I said, that seems good, right? You enjoyed it, right? And he goes, no. And I went, oh, crap. Well, you guys know where I can grab any cardboard boxes because I got a desk to pack up. And he said, I listened for 40 minutes waiting to hear when you were going to talk about whether or not Aaron Rodgers should win the MVP award in the NFL, and you never got to it. He's a Packers guy. He said, I spent 40 minutes waiting for you to talk about whether or not Aaron Rodgers should have won the MVP or should win the MVP award, and you never got to it. What is that, man? And Lonzo, I had a very weird emotion because part of me went, oh, okay, he was listening to it because he was at least somewhat enjoying it and was waiting for a topic, but I never got to it. So you know what I looked at him and said? Why didn't you call the show, man? And he looked at me like I was insane. And I said, we're a caller-driven show based on interaction and confrontation. You're supposed to call in to share your opinion. Why didn't you? And he goes, get out of my office. I was very concerned for a moment there that was going to be my last broadcast yesterday. That I was going to sign off with Twitter trending topics and not know it was my last radio discussion.
Hey, well done on your part. Getting kicked out of the office and still being here the next day.
Badge of honor, right?
Yeah, that goes right up there with the award we won.
Yeah. I should get a plaque to hang right next to the Star Award for Best Sports Talk Radio Show in South Carolina. That's exactly what I should do.
Next time, boss, just text me, and I'll make sure that I just derail and make sure we talk Aaron Rodgers.
I told him. I told him, I'm like, hey, phone number is 844-GSP-ESPN. Why didn't you call in?
You know, we do also have a text line, a sponsor text line.
We do. It is the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. And for the record, I come in here every day with 3 hours show prepped. I can't show it to you. Like ordinarily, this is the part I would like take a piece of paper and go by the mic to show you, but it's all online.
You really didn't need to hit the mic.
I didn't do it on purpose, but as soon as I did, I was like, well, it's for drama. You know, it's worth it.
Tony would come up here and you'll get an elbow right upside the head.
That's me scrolling through the show prep.
That actually,
okay,
I can hear it.
Me scrolling through the show prep. However, if you guys have something you want us to cover that I don't have on the agenda, text it to the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. Start your text with ESPN. And I promise you, there's probably not much. I'm not going to say there's nothing because I know that for a fact that there is. There is not much that you guys will ask us to talk about that Lonzo and I won't. All right. We did a whole segment on boy bands about 2 weeks ago and it turned into a promo.
And by the way, you know, the stuff that we won't talk about on the air, we probably will talk about on the stream.
Correct.
So, you know, there you go.
71307, the Preferred Home Services text line. Start your text with ESPN. You guys bring me something on the text line. It's likely going to get talked about. Now, some of y'all are weirdos. All right. Some of y'all are weirdos. I know that. I've done this job long enough to know some of y'all are weird.
What do you think the percentage is of that? I think it's good.
Most. It's
kind of high. Yes.
It's most percent. And for the record, takes one to know one, guys. There's a reason they put Lonzo and me in an office together because they didn't want us to contaminate the rest of the office with our weird. All right. We get it. That's why this show works so well.
But weird permeates everywhere whenever we walk down the hall.
Correct. There are some people who come see us because they like it and other people who walk the long way around the office to avoid it. We get it.
We might also need an air freshener. It could be.
Not me. I smell great. I showered today. All right. Busy day on the broadcast today. 844-GSP-ESPN. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307. Start your text with ESPN so that we can read them on the air. Let's see. You can Google image all of the pics of Aaron Rodgers trying to make a man bun out of that god-awful hairstyle he is trying to pull off right now. Automatic MVP disqualification. Next topic.
How dare you, Texter? How dare you? That's some good-looking hair, okay?
Lonzo is squarely team man bun.
You have made an enemy out of me. No, not the man bun.
Squarely team man bun.
Not the man bun, but the hairstyle itself. The loose. I'm here and I'm Aaron Rodgers. Deal with it. I was going to say something that DX would say, but I'm not.
Here's the thing. You've still got the hair to pull this off. A-Rod's got the hair that gets really stringy towards the end and it's straight. He looks okay when he's like got his helmet off and his hair is actually pulled back. But when he's got the helmet on, it looks like, I don't know, like wisp hanging out the back of the helmet. It's not a great look.
A little secret all you short hairs don't understand. And that is long hair. If you get hit a certain way and your helmet goes back, it doesn't hurt as much because the hair absorbs some of the blow from the back of the helmet. So it's a good move.
It's a safety precaution.
It's a good move to have long hair in season for sure.
Let's do that thing that we do.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Lunch!
All right, I got distracted for a moment because I'm scrolling through Twitter and I just came across a Twitter account that does they offer like bulk sale stuff, you know, like you can buy a bunch of a thing for a lot cheaper than normally. Lonzo, when you grew up and you had a little cough, you got the congestion and all that, what medication did the parental units in your life give you?
Well, we couldn't afford medicine, Rob, but thank you for bringing that up.
All right, I'll ask everybody else then because that was helpless, completely helpless. When you guys were growing up, what medicine did your parents give you when you had the cough and the congestion? My parents gave me Robitussin, right? Robitussin, that's what it was called, right? Robitussin.
You talking about cough syrup?
Cough syrup, Robitussin.
Yeah.
That was the name of it. It was Robitussin. Except for everybody in the fam called it Tusson, right? Like you get you a little medicine cup full of Tusson if you got the cough. But the name of the product was Robitussin, if I recall correctly. I just got an advertisement, and I don't know if it's the official name of it, but the medicine is now just called Tusson.
Did they really change their name to Tusson, or is it a different one?
I don't know if this is a generic knockoff, right? It may be a generic knockoff that took advantage and just called itself Tusson.
It's the street version.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yo, got some Tusson over here.
There's some street pharmacists out there that have created their own Robitussin, and now because again, when I was growing up, if you had a little coffee, you had a little something, Grandpa gave you a teaspoonful of bourbon, and Grandma gave you some Robitussin, but we called it Tussin. So it's but it's Robitussin, except for I just came across an ad for Tussin DM cough and chest congestion, cough suppressant, and expectorant.
Expectorant, yes.
Look at you knowing a word better than me.
Hey,
haughty intellectual.
Listen, I'm especially good at expectorating. Okay, I did see Beauty and the Beast. Thank you.
So is this actually, has Robitussin changed its name to just Tussin because that's what we all called it? Or is it new? Lonzo, you're on research detail here. I need to know.
Tussin 7.5 milligrams from WebMD. All right, so Tussin is a thing, and it's coming up all the things that you showed and a bunch of different versions of it. Now the question is, here's something, a related search, Tussin versus Robitussin.
Oh, so it's a different thing. It's a knockoff. It's a knockoff. There's competitions out here in the streets.
People also ask, is Tussin same as Robitussin? Let's see what it says. Compared to Robitussin cough and chest congestion DM active ingredients, Tussin DM provides soothing action and targets the source of your cough, plus relieves your chest congestion. This non-drowsy cherry-flavored cough relief medicine is an effective way to loosen mucus, relieve chest congestion, and cough.
Text line says, of course the 1%er had Robitussin where Zoe and I grew up. Mom put more water in the old bottle of Tussin to make more Tussin. Text says the prescription syrup is Tussin and it can be prescribed with codeine in it. So the because what I'm looking at, the Tussin I'm looking at right here is not like prescription medication. It's from a company called Basic Care and it's presented by Amazon. So it looks like it's a knockoff Robitussin just called Tussin. I don't know. Texter says, Dennis Orcoyo sent back to the Philippines for overstaying his visa. Thoughts on how this might affect the U.S. billiards play moving forward? It appears he might not be able to come back for 5 years. That's a big conversation. Big scandal going on right now in the world of billiards, Lonzo, about the overstaying of the visa of Dennis Orcoyo.
So is pool only billiards when it's competitive? How's that work? When does pool become billiards, or is it just billiards across the pond?
I think any game that is played with balls on the tabletop and a cue is billiards by definition. So billiards is not a game.
So if you're playing 8-ball, okay, all right, gotcha.
What's the one where they put the little things on the table too? Right? There's one with little obstacles on the table.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of them.
All of that is billiards. Pool is the game that I traditionally play in a bar. Pool is the one with pockets on the side. There are other games you play with where there aren't pockets. I think the one with the little mushroom bumper things is one.
It's so weird. I've only seen that.
Snooker.
Okay, there we go.
I knew I could do it.
Also, I don't believe, is snooker big here?
I mean, again, I go with the one I can play in a bar. It's just pool.
Do you play snooker in a pub?
I don't know how to play snooker. I've never played snooker at all. Good Lord. Apparently snooker is played on a table the size of a swimming pool.
It's just a long angle lens and really short people.
Let's go with that. All right, we should do the lunch breakdown now that the segment's over. What do you think? But we knocked the important stuff out of the way. U.S. billiards controversy, Tussin versus Robitussin, and me thinking I was fired yesterday. Those are the three things
I just want to point out. It was a well-worded text.
Well-worded text, yes.
Yes, it was. Good job.
Texas says, when I was coming up, we would drink a bottle too and then have a hallucinogenic effect, but in a different verbiage. Another texter says, nothing's better than expired Vicks Vapor Rub.
And that stuff never goes. That's, I mean, my mom would pull out the vapor rub that, I mean, the lettering is yellowed. It had been around for, this stuff doesn't go bad.
I had a friend once who was convinced he could get high off of Vicks vapor rub, so he just always smelled like menthol.
My mom told me back in the day that her mom, they swallow vapor rub.
God, what?
Yeah, I just.
Well, I take it back. This is the place where teachers threw desks at kids. So
yeah, but
I should expect
my
things like that.
mom's from the holler, so maybe in Kentucky they did it that way. A holler?
Yeah, what's a holler?
Where the family lives.
No, there's something more than that.
It's a
I saw
holler,
a place
man.
the other day called Possum Holler. That's a real place around here.
Yeah.
There's like restaurants and stuff. What is a holler?
You don't want to go back in the holler if you ain't from around here.
What is a holler in the South? A small sheltered valley that usually, but not necessarily, has a water course running through it. A small sheltered valley that usually, but not necessarily. So it's a valley. It's a small sheltered valley.
All right, so
Y'all couldn't just be happy with the word valley.
Not from Kentucky because the hollers in Kentucky are in the mountains and they are. It takes a while to get back in there. It may be a decent sized road. It has a creek running beside it, and almost all your family lives back there. And if someone comes back there who ain't family, they get questioned.
Well, it's your small sheltered valley.
No.
Still a small sheltered valley.
It's not, but it's not a valley. It's on the side of a mountain.
At the bottom of the side of the mountain, because then it's in a valley.
No, it's not. I know what a valley is.
Like up on the mountain. Then it's not a holler.
I'm from Ohio, and the Ohio Valley. I know what a valley is.
Then it's Mount whatever. It's Mount Lonzo at that point.
Well, no. It's called a holler, dude. You're from Florida. I can't explain it to you.
It's not what it is, though.
My fellow Kentuckians, even though I'm from Ohio, there are Kentucky people in the audience who can tell you what a holler is, and I'm guessing there are hollers in West Virginia, and there are definitely hollers in South Carolina. It's a place that you don't want to go to, especially with your hair like that.
That's in a small sheltered valley. Yeah. All right. That is 20 minutes. We have done nothing here today.
Let's hope that the big boss was listening for the entire 20 minutes. I tried to get him to talk about Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what he's doing.
Texture says, I'm impressed how Rob just rolled with it like he knows exactly who Dennis or Koyo is. # mad props. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not the best sports talk radio show that doesn't talk about sports in the South Carolina region just for nothing. All right, let's break down when we come back, because I'm not only did I not do it, but now I didn't do it and I'm late. Top 3 things you need to talk about at lunch when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
QC.
Say about my friends at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics wants you to know that if you have joint pain, and you do, because it is a thing that happens. As you get older, that connective tissue inside your joint starts to wear down, and your body's ability to regenerate it, repair it, replace it also wears down as well. So you start getting inflammation and soreness from parts that ain't supposed to touch, rub it against each other. QC Kinetics can help you with that, and you don't have to go under the knife to make it happen. You're going to get told by some folks in some places you need surgery. You got to get that joint replaced, repaired from the inside. Before you do that, call my friends at QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show. Get that first consultation for free, and let them explain to you how their regenerative non-surgical therapies can help your body heal, restore that connective tissue, and get you back on your feet and back to your regular day-to-day life without joint pain or the fear of joint pain any longer. Go to their website at qckinetics.com, QCKINETIX.com, QCkinetics.com. Learn all about the science behind the therapy, or again, call them 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show. Get that first consultation for free with our friends at QC Kinetics.
There's actually definition of a holler in Kentucky, which holler is the regional dialect pronunciation of hollow,
which is a valley,
referring to a broad natural hollow as of one a creek has carved,
which would have to go through a valley.
I think a valley has to be at the bottom of a mountain, not on the side of a mountain. How can you have a valley on the side of a mountain?
You can't. That's what I'm saying. It's wrong to call that a holler. That's
so
a mount.
You go.
People are wrong sometimes. That's a thing they do. In large groups, they are wrong.
I've probably already.
Call it a holler.
If my mamaw says it was a holler, it's a holler. What's the difference between a valley and a holler? Is that a valley is an elongated depression between hills or mountains, often with a river flowing through it, while a holler
Which is exactly what a holler is. It's the same thing. It's just a southern word for a holler.
Ooh, there's something called a holler neighborhood, a place where the sun comes up late and sets early. We're going to argue about this till you admit you're wrong.
Welcome to the Rob Brown Geographic Dictionary Show, where we argue and debate the specific language used to describe features of regions and locales, ladies and gentlemen. If your town is on the side of a mountain, it is not a holler. It has to be in the holler for it to be a holler.
It's not a town. It's several
a compound.
It's several single wides and a few log cabins.
Item number 1 on the lunch breakdown. The 3 things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the dog. The NFL has issued a warning to teams that they could lose a draft pick and face significant fines if club representatives conduct themselves unprofessionally in interviews with draft prospects moving forward. ESPN released a memo they obtained from the NFL that was sent to clubs earlier this morning, The league said a team would forfeit a draft pick between the 1st and 4th rounds and be fined a minimum of $150K if it determined a club representative displayed conduct that is, quote, disrespectful, inappropriate, or unprofessional during an interview. Fines and or suspensions of individual club employees could also be imposed, according to the memory. You got me all discombobulated with the holler conversation.
Memo is the word you're looking for.
That is the word I was looking for. League executive Troy Vincent told the AP, quote, "We aim for dignity, respect, and professionalism. It's that simple," end quote. The league also plans to eliminate the Wonderlic Test. We have had plenty of jokes about the Wonderlic Test over the year. You ever taken the Wonderlic Test, Lonzo?
I have not, but another host on another show on this station really wanted me to take it because I think that host thought that he would do so much better than me. So we just never did it.
I took it once about 8 years ago on the air because I wanted to walk people through it.
I was going to say, proving you're smarter than me. What are you really proving?
No.
You're not really proving. You're not proving a whole lot. I mean, I don't know how, but I mean, come on.
I took it on air about 8 years ago, and I was just slightly above average for a haughty intellectual. I was very disappointed in myself. I might take it again. I might take it after the show today. As a tribute.
Isn't there like a lot of common sense involved in it?
There's a lot of common sense, but it's not just common sense. It's like paying attention to instructions, right? Like they'll throw like a one-word instruction somewhere in the middle of a very long question that if you follow that one instruction, it changes it all up.
You mean like an email from down the hall that no one reads because the thing is hidden?
Test. We take one of those for management every day. The Wonderlic Test is no moss, ladies and gentlemen. The league also plans to eliminate the Wonderlic Test for prospective players and is revising some of its scouting combine drills to better stimulate game-related movement. Wide receivers and tight ends will run crossing routes instead of wheel routes, and running backs will run option routes instead of corner and post-corner routes. Some drills for offensive linemen and defensive players were also revived to better assess in-game player movements. Now, why is this happening, you ask? I'm so glad you did. Hypothetical listener, I made up for this exact situation. The memo states, quote, all clubs should ensure that prospective draft picks are afforded a respectful and professional NFL environment, one that is consistent with state and federal law and our shared commitment to respect, diversity, and inclusion. The same is true of free agents whom your club may consider signing. It is also important for your club to reinforce prospective players the value your club places on character and the standards of conduct expected of everyone with the NFL. Now, there have been a lot of stories that have caused this to be the direction that the National Football League is going. Back in 2010, then Miami Dolphins general manager Jeff Ireland had to offer a public apology to soon-to-be Dallas Cowboys first-round draft pick Dez Bryant because he asked Dez Bryant in a job interview. Remember, the Combine's a job interview. It's a big one, but it's effectively a job fair is what it is, right? He asked Dez Bryant if his mother was a prostitute. And he did not do it in the funny Sean Connery Celebrity Jeopardy voice. That would have given him a little bit of an out. Then, in 2016, Atlanta Falcons coach Dan Quinn, LOL, had to apologize to Eli Apple because one of his coaches on staff asked the cornerback about his sexual preference. In 2018, former LSU running back Darius Geis said one team at the Combine asked both about his sexuality and another inquired if his mother was a prostitute.
I'm trying to figure out, so it's a common thing asking if your mom was a prostitute. How does that affect your play on the field? I'm just curious.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with, I suspect, because NFL teams are obviously looking to see how good of a football player a guy is, but they're trying to get a look into his mentality and his mindset, right? And if you walk up to a guy and you go, what's your favorite color, Lonzo?
Blue.
Yeah, he has his answer because he's cool, calm, collected. But if he knows he's on a job interview and he knows I have a job to offer and I walk up to him and without saying anything else go, hey, Zoe, was your mom a hooker? I want to see how he responds to that under pressure, right?
Yeah, I get
It's a weird question at a weird time in a weird place. But if you answer it coolly and calmly and confidently, then I got a little bit more faith than you can perform under pressure. And as a quarterback with Tom Brady in the league, that's what I need out of the guy, right?
What if you respond that I'll be taking this up with the league and taking it to a higher power that you asked me such a question?
Don't know.
Do you bring that guy in?
Don't know. If you're Jeff Ireland.
If he's threatening litigation right away when you're asking questions like that.
I mean, it's subjective,
but you're also submitting yourself to those questions.
Right.
You're you're going to get asked some weird questions because if you're paying attention at all, you've heard some of these.
Yeah. There's entire list on the internet of weird questions to ask potential job applicants to see who can handle having to be creative, think outside the box, and do so.
Have you ever taken a job application that has like 100 questions on it before? I have, and some of the questions are just the same question repeated but worded in a different way to test to see if you're going to be consistent in your answer and things like that. So I get why they're doing it. It's a dumb question.
Can we get to the real source of America's problems now? I haven't had to do it in a while, and I'm very happy about that. But if I go to another website where they say, please upload your resume, and I go create and upload my resume, and then I go to the next page and it asks me to fill in all the information that's already.
By the way, Rob hasn't done that recently. So
that's what I just said.
So don't read anything. Well, I'm helping. They don't always listen. So I'm corroborating.
For other people. Yeah, I had been asked weird questions in job interviews before, right? I interviewed for a job with an insurance company a number of years ago because I needed a real job because radio. And I said, I walked in and the guy asked me this true question, Lonzo. He asked me about 3 questions deep. The first one was like, well, do you have any experience with, I was going to go around and take pictures of people's insurance claims. Do you have any experience with photography? Do you know how to use social media? Do you like garden gnomes? That was a question that was just thrown into the middle of a job interview.
All right, that's too far.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, because garden gnomes, I don't like garden gnomes. Garden gnomes are like snakes. They should all be crushed.
I'm neither pro nor anti-garden gnome. If there's one in your garden, I won't judge you. If there's not, I wouldn't never think about it otherwise.
I think it was Fable 3. You'll never look at gnomes the same way.
So the point of this is they ask weird questions, but there's difference between do you like garden gnomes and is your mama a hooker? There's a difference in those two questions, I think. I in a weird way, I get why the teams do it. In a weird way, I get why the teams do it. The teams do it because they want to see, what does the guy do when there's a curveball out of left field, right? Because if you're a cornerback and you lined up on one-on-one, say you're lined up one-on-one on receiver, and then the running back motions out to your side of the field, and you're in one-on-one ISO with a single high safety, so the whole left third of the field is your responsibility, and now the running back flanks out, motions over to you, and now you got Alvin Kamara lined up there. How are you going to handle that situation? You got to come up with a solution creatively under pressure and be able to communicate with the other guys on the field. Hey, change. I need this to slide over and whatever. But also, is your mama hooker seems a little far. You know what I'm saying? Like, ask a weird question, but don't be a jerk. It's just weird.
Just want to see if you're going to take off all your equipment, wave to the crowd, and take an Uber home.
Yeah. Here's what Ben Watson said. You know, Ben Watson's a highly respected dude out of the NFL, right? Ben Watson, highly respected dude out of the NFL. Ben Watson played 16 seasons, and he told a story about his draft day. He said, quote, I can remember sitting in a dark room with a huge spotlight. There's a seat like you're being interrogated for a crime, and all the front office staff is in the back in the shadows, and you can't see them. The guy grabbed my wrist, and he's like, I can feel your pulse, so I know if you're lying to me. Have you ever smoked marijuana? I said, no, I really hadn't. I've never smoked. He said, I think you're lying. I can feel your pulse. Are you lying to us? I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So for a minute, I thought I actually did smoke marijuana, and maybe I needed to confess to a crime that I didn't commit. But these sorts of tactics that are happening at the combine and that are not being monitored definitely need to be done away with, end quote. Ben Watson says, they asked me if I smoked the herb. I said no. They said, you're lying. I can feel your pulse. And he went, did I smoke marijuana?
And see, my response would be, if you don't let go of my arm, your pulse is going to quicken really fast when I punch you in the face. But, you know.
Yeah, but then you're not getting drafted by the NFL, right?
Well, I'll get drafted by the Raiders.
Because with a signing bonus.
Or maybe Washington.
The Bungles of back in the day. It's an interesting conversation, right? Because on one hand, you do want to find creative ways to find out how guys respond under pressure. Can they think outside of the box? Can they think on the fly? Can they communicate when they're in a high stress situation? But on the flip side, these tactics are being a blank is what they're doing, right? And there's a line. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, we'll get to item number 2, the extended version of the lunch breakdown today. You know why? Because I want to. That's why. Talk a little baseball when we come back. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. It's the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate, baby. This is a weird hour, and I like it. Step 1, fix those mics. Step 2, clean out the closet behind Rob.
Don't you be messing with that. Plus, if you move that stuff, it might mess with his feng shui, and you don't want that to happen. Yeah. There we go. Look at that. That was smooth like.
With just one spray of Microban 24, your hard surfaces are sanitized for up to 24 hours. Touch after touch after touch.
So 6 hours from now?
Still sanitized.
12 hours?
Yep.
18 hours.
We're really doing this.
24 hours.
When used as directed, one spray of Microban keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria touch after touch for, up to 24 hours.
Wow.
Microban 24, the sanitizer 4 out of 5 doctors would use in their own homes. So why aren't you?
Only Wendy's serves a better breakfast with a better biscuit. Our hot, buttery breakfast biscuits are loaded with a fresh cracked egg, cheese, and your choice of bacon or sausage. Did we mention the part where Wendy's biscuits are hot and buttery? Wendy's breakfast biscuits, hot and buttery. So don't take a chance with those other guys. Bet on a better breakfast with Wendy's bacon or sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Choose spicy. Choose Wendy's. Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
You could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, but when we just come out and say it, it feels like it falls a bit flat. So we're going to use humor. But we don't want to insult your intelligence, so nothing too goofy. And we need to avoid any polarizing topics.
Tony Khan just said he has a, quote, dream signee coming to you. It's got to be Jeff Hardy, right?
I guess. Is it a dream signee though? With his past and all
He's
the
a big Hardy guy. He loved the Hardys.
I know, but at the same time, with all the problems he's had and things like that.
If the release was because of drinking, nobody's ever confirmed that.
Right, you're right.
My mom said you look nice today. I was like, thanks, I tried. I always wanted.
If your mom is, I wanted to know that I knew that you were dressed nice by how you smelled when you walk in the
Smell
office.
good today.
You tell. Okay, Rob.
No, I've got Keegan asked me to. Keegan gave me the honor of asking to be a groomsman in his wedding.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm gonna get fitted for a tux, but I don't want to roll up in a men's warehouse like a slob.
No, man, you should have rode the bike.
Thought about it today, but it's
Straight up leather
3
roll,
degrees
Yeah.
outside.
which is warmer than what it was a couple days
Not
ago.
warm enough for a motorcycle.
Oh, there are guys out there on their bike right now.
Yeah, and they're insane. I don't
There's-
care how much
there's
leather
that.
you got. It's cold. It was funny about this shirt though. I wanted to. This is a Dickies mechanic shirt. I wanted one for Christmas, and Courtney got it for me. So I've got I got a patch. I'm getting a patch with my name on it to put over this shirt.
Well, you should. You absolutely
And then I'm
should.
throwing I'm throwing a bunch of, like, I got a Reedy River Riot patch for this arm. I'm putting a Dungeon Masters patch on this one. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Texas says, ESPN, if you played, you would be surprised, I guess, if you heard what was said from team to team during the game. Yeah, no, I agree. And I've always said, I kind of think the NFL, if they're fostering this this atmosphere of inclusion and respect, needs to probably pay attention to what is said on the field. But remember, we can only react to what is presented to us, right? We can only present what is presented to us. I promise you, every game, you know, we've done this thing for the last few years where they mic up players before they send them out on the field. And we've gotten some gold out of players being mic'd on the field. But I promise you, for every hilarious 20-second clip of Ocho Cinco trying to blindside block Ray Lewis and getting planted in the turf in Cincinnati and coming up and sounded like he's dying and making hilarious jokes on the sideline about the fact that he got clobbered by Ray, right? I promise you there's 6.5 hours of material that the NFL scrubs from existence the moment it's recorded, right? But at the same time, these guys are not NFL players yet when this is happening. They are prospective players. They are guys that are trying to get a job. But if I came in here as a prospective employee of ESPN Upstate and my first job interview, the boss downstairs asked me, "Is your mom a prostitute?" I probably would have been like, "I don't think I want to be here. I don't think I want to work here," if that's the question you're asking me to start our interview. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. Jeff Passan, who has become kind of the leading voice of MLB, has written a long article available on ESPN with the headline, "Why MLB's labor negotiations have gone nowhere and baseball's path back." Now, I'm not going to go through the whole article that he wrote, but I do want to read you a couple of quotes that he has from a source that is a front office baseball guy. Condition of anonymity, of course. Passan said he was having a conversation with a guy and asked him, why aren't things happening, right? These negotiations. It seems like right now would be the time that you guys wouldn't want to leave a conference center until you had a deal. Because we got about another month and a half-ish before the timeline for spring training to go into spring games has to start getting pushed back, which means that either the start of the season has to be pushed back or games have to start getting cut to end at the regular time. And he said that the front office person said, and I quote, "What the blank are we doing?" And a very harsh word in the middle of that sentence. Passon writes, quote, "This man is not an alarmist. He has intimate knowledge of how the relationship between the league and the players union works, or rather doesn't work, and he has grown increasingly cynical about the parties reaching a deal anytime soon. He's not yet ready to say baseball will lose games on account of its laborware, but he's not ready to say baseball won't lose games either. He sees it happening again, the same thing that happened in 2020 when an attempt to strike a deal for the season fell apart. Then and now, the players and league don't negotiate so much as talk past each other. For all the rhetoric about the animosity between the parties not mattering as much as the substance of the issues they're discussing, they can't even get to the substance of the issues because the relationship is so toxic." The man said, quote, "We're in such a place as an industry that it's kind of like politics. Everyone is so obsessed with winning this narrow game we've prescribed for ourselves. There's no practicality, no moderation," end quote. And I think that is spot on, right? We have hit a point where to Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, what's important is not getting a deal done. What's important is not shaking hands over the table and saying, let's play baseball. What's important is winning the PR war, right? It's winning the PR war. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because having the public in your corner is a huge bargaining chip. It's a big bargaining chip. To just go into negotiations and settle the deal is important. And both sides want to do that, I think. But they want to come to the table with the public in their corner. Because if the public, by and large, supports your side in the negotiations, then you have more pull at the table. You have more to negotiate. You have more power to pull some of those extra chips back into your pile, right? This is why I've said this is going to be ugly because of social media. Not that social media is bad. It is. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. Not because it's bad, but because the players know if we can get them on our side of the table, if we as players can have the public support us and utilize our brand new platform on social media to give our side of the story and make the public, make baseball fans sympathetic to us, then when it's time to sit down in negotiations, we can look at the owners and go, give us what we want. Because if you don't, we're going to go tell the fans, baseball as a whole, Major League Baseball as an organization is trying to take baseball away from you. And the fans will be furious and go to the player's side. The owners, on the other hand, recognize their desire to control the narrative. I told you about the last strike back in 95, or lockout back in 95. Major League Baseball has one big problem here, and the big problem that they have is that in the 90s, they controlled the narrative because they controlled the media, right? We talked yesterday about the fact that Ken Rosenthal got fired from the MLB network because he criticized Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. That 100% comes from the fact that baseball wants to control the narrative within the media. Because if they control the narrative in the media and they can paint the players as wanting too much, as being greedy, and they can convince us as fans that baseball players are trying to take more from the game, which means that's less that the owners can then put back into the game to make the fan experience better, both in parks and at home, and the fans go to their side, then they can strong arm the players and go, hey, look, whether you play or we call up a bunch of non-unionized minor leaguers, fans just want baseball. They don't care who's playing it. I think the players are winning that war in the grand scheme of things. But it's more important to them to win the PR war. It's more important for them to win the PR war than it is to sit down at the table and get the damn deal done. Just get it done. Pitchers and catchers are supposed to be reporting in like less than a month. Pitchers and catchers are supposed to report on February 14th. So a month and a week. February 14th, they're supposed to report. And right now, it ain't happening. I tell you right now, February 14th, pitchers and catchers reporting probably isn't happening at all right now.
All right, we know I'm not a baseball guy, but I am curious about something I never really thought of before. We know what it's like when an NFL player skips training camp.
Yeah.
So missing when pitchers and catchers are supposed to show up, what's it do? Does it, I mean.
So pitchers and catchers go early. Pitchers to start getting their arms ready for a full load of work, right? Pitchers and catchers so that they can work on their communication, their timing, their nonverbal communication, their getting their signs down, getting their in-game talk ready to go. If those two groups don't come together and they have to push pitchers and catchers reporting back, let's say a month, it pushes everything else back a month because pitchers and catchers aren't going to just show up on the same day as infielders and outfielders and go, cool, we're ready to start throwing live BP. No, they need time because you don't show up and you just start throwing a baseball. There's a whole set of workouts and stretches and different preparations that you go through to work your arm, to ramp your arm up into pitching shape. Pitching is awful for your shoulder, for your elbow, for your wrist. It's awful for it. And so they take a lot of time to ramp up into being in shape to where it's not as damaging as if they just go out there and start humming heaters, right? So if pitchers and catchers reporting gets pushed back, and I'm telling you right now it's going to be. If it gets pushed back, then that means that fielders and sluggers showing up gets pushed back, and that means spring training gets pushed back, and spring training already ends just a couple of days before opening day, which means opening day gets pushed back. The problem is baseball does not want to push the World Series back further than the October date it's already in. They don't want to go into November because they don't want to be competing against football any longer than they have to be. So the other option is lop 20 games or 30 games or 50 games off the front end of the season. But if you're the owners, now you're in the problem of that is a third of the season or whatever, a 20th of the season.
But
you're not bringing revenue in.
Wasn't it the players who didn't want to to shorten the season because of COVID?
No, the players wanted to shorten the season, but they still wanted to get paid for a full season of work because it counts as time served against their contract. So effectively what they're saying is we are still getting all of the detriment of a full year of service. You're taking money out of our pockets, but you are still making money off the TV deals. We still want our full pay. The owners were saying we want to prorate your checks based on the number of games lost. It was a hard compromise. And that's kind of the same boat that we're in now. It's just that now we're talking about the overall collective bargaining agreement as opposed to what we were talking about, which is one COVID-restricted season. So the owners are saying, we don't want to give you any money because we piled all this money into making sure the season happened during the COVID year. And the players are saying, whoa. Baseball revenue's up 11% over the last decade. Player salaries are down 4%. You are paying us less than you were paying when you were making less money. We want our salaries to go up alongside baseball's revenue percentage-wise. Neither side wants to come to the table, and I'm telling you, the reason neither side wants to come to the table right now is because both sides are trying to win the public relations war. Because if the public's in your corner, you have more negotiating power. And if you have more negotiating power, you get more of what you want. So it is more important for them to hash this war out publicly to try to win the majority of fans over to their side before they come to the table. The problem is it's going to be at the detriment of the fans because we're going to lose games so that we can be used as a pawn in their negotiations. And it is what it is. Quick break. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1 after this. My name is Rob Brown. Lonzo's at the helm. This is ESPN Upstate, y'all. You right there, buddy?
Thursday, chance for rain late, increasing clouds, high 52. Friday, sunny, high 43. Sunshine Saturday, chance for Detroit on Sunday. And meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on ESPN Upstate. Currently, it's 52.
The College Football National Championship, presented by AT&T. Kirby Smart and Fort Georgia face #1 Alabama, who's looking to repeat as national champions.
It's not really about what you want, it's about what you're willing to
No, Steven. No, it's not. That's the third hour topic because that's when he listens. I know. One for one.
So Led Zeppelin is on in the bathroom, and I just can't help but think of those guys secretly reading their Tolkien books in the back of the tour bus, not wanting anyone to know that they're actually sci-fi fantasy nerds.
That's why I like Led Zeppelin. They just wrote entire songs about the Lord of the Rings, like nerds.
Well, it was Ramble On that was playing right about the darkest depths of Mordor.
Take her away, way. And I sound just like Robert Plant.
I thought I was in the same room with them.
This is important news. If you have unfiled tax returns, the IRS is shifting gears and ramping up investigations on non-filers this year. If you fail to file your tax returns for a year or more,
I'm not mocking Robert Plant. I like Robert Plant. We were just talking about the fact that Led Zeppelin straight up wrote songs about the Lord of the Rings. Like, they were nerds. And I don't know if you know this about Lonzo and I, but yes, we are.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe.
I know it's shocking.
You know, our Holler discussion reminds me of my Aunt Ellie was married to her husband, Haird. And so I had a discussion with my cousins. You know, Haird is actually Howard.
Haird?
Haird. And
That I thought it meant hired.
it's Haird.
Haird.
She called him Haird. And so one day we were doing something and they were there, and I asked my aunt to spell it. Hey, can you spell Haird? Because I'm not sure how to spell that. Howard. And I just turned around and looked at him. See, I told you.
H-A-W.
No, O-W. Howard. But she said it Haird.
Go on, call Haird.
Come on, Haird. Let's go to the store. I'm also really curious, and I think I've looked this up before, where the Southern accent actually comes from. And I think it was Irish.
Let's see. According to Babbel.com. Southern American English comes from Northern England. At least that's a major contributing factor. Southerners don't sound particularly Cockney anymore, which is a side effect of a few centuries of isolation and other outside influence. So as not to generalize, there are also areas of the South that sound distinctly Southern, but don't pronounce their R's. It would take a long time to explain how the accent formed feature by feature, but these old immigration patterns go a long way and why the United States has such a distinct difference in speech.
Well, of course, I mean, they probably sounded very Cockney in the beginning, but generation after generation, you're only spending time around the same people. So certain things would,
language evolves.
Or devolves. I mean, depending on how you look at it. People from England would probably.
What you trying to tell me? This don't sound smarter than no daggum Brits.
Exactly. Although, can the redneck from the deepest holler go to a pub and those guys understand each other? Because I think they probably could. They probably would have a conversation where someone from New England or something would go in and go, "What in the world are they?"
Speaking of accents, I have sound for this segment. Courtesy of our discussion about the holler back in the first segment, Brian Kelly was on with the ESPN guys during the LSU game. You remember Brian Kelly at an LSU basketball game, introduced himself and his family. You know, the man from Boston by way of Notre Dame. He suddenly got a Southern accent down there in Baton Rouge. Didn't even use the right Southern accent. Anyway, the guys on the NCAA broadcast of the LSU-Kentucky game last night had Brian Kelly on the mic, and he decided, Lonzo, to say this.
Well, listen, Walker Howard is a five-star quarterback, and you know that you got to do what your quarterback asks, right? If he says you got to dance, you're going to dance. Why wouldn't you dance? And listen, whether it was dancing or I couldn't get my accent down with family. Listen, I'm from Boston. We don't have strong accents. And by the way, you cannot get on me about my accent because you got one too.
Yeah. You know, those folks from Boston, they're wicked smart up at Fenway Park.
Yeah, no strong accents there at all. None at all.
Now, if you ever ride in a car with somebody from Boston, you know, like Mac Wahlberg, notorious for his lack of accent through the years, you know? Notorious is Mac Wahlberg, who's a big Red Sox fan. He goes and sees him at Fenway Park. He takes his car from the bar down to Fenway Park to watch the Red Sox. Notorious for not having an accent are the Boston folks, aren't they, Coach? I don't really have any point to this segment. I just wanted to do it. Just Boston folks don't have an accent. There's definitely not entire movies about people from Boston and their accents. Definitely not a thing. Eh, Coach? Anyway, thanks for coming down from Boston, Coach. Hope you enjoy the beans there in Baton Rouge. You weirdo. When we come back, earlier this week, Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard went full boomer on me. Yesterday, Herbie went on a podcast to clarify. And he said a lot of things. Some of them were dumb. I like you, Herbie, but we got to talk. We'll do it next on The Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. I'm going to run through all that Herbie audio next.
Okay.
Oh, I actually know this one, Steven. Louisiana is a melting pot of languages that came from a bunch of different regions. There's Acadiana, which is a large portion around New Orleans, and you had French Creole people that came down from Canada. So a lot of the accent there still has a very heavy French influence on it, which is why in Louisiana, when you speak French, traditionally the enunciation comes on the last syllable of a word instead of on the front syllable. In English, the front syllable is where you put the enunciation. In French, it goes on the last syllable. So when the French Creole people move down to Acadiana in Louisiana and they have the accent on the last syllable, it kind of changes up the way. It's also a more subtle language that has a lot of the way, you know, how the French language kind of rolls around, as opposed to like English. It's like word, word, word. With French, it's very flowy. It's very transitions from word to word. And so it kind of evolved into that. But then also you ended up having freed slaves and Native Americans, indigenous people, etc., that all kind of began breeding with each other and created the Creole people. Not the Creole people. Not Creole. Creole's the French. What am I thinking of? The Cajun people, etc. But basically, they all started becoming one big group of people, and all of those different language traits of the indigenous people. You also had a lot of folks that were from Haiti, which is where the voodoo stuff comes from. A lot of folks from Haiti moved in and became part of that population. So you have leftover effects of French, of Haitian, of broken dialects of English, and of French that all kind of mixed together. And now we talk funny.
Golf cart in the first break.
10-4. That's the one spot of language I do know a thing. I am so smart. SMRT. As the great Homer Simpson would say.
It's a beautiful story, and you told it so well.
No, you should question me because I know things and I am smart.
I'm not sure that's how you spell that, but I could be wrong because I'm not one.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. We're glad to be back with you. Earlier in the week, we had an edition of College Game Day live from the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl in Southern California. And Kirk Herbstreit, who, again, let me reiterate, I like a lot. I think he does a great job. I think he's one of and should be and should continue to be one of the most influential voices in college football. I like him.
You're throwing that out a lot. I just want you to know that I really like this guy. I really like this guy. I want everyone to know that I really like this guy.
No, because we've hit this point in society, Lonzo, where if you criticize somebody, it means you hate them. And that's not true. That's not true. I am friends with people I vehemently disagree on big things with. I'll throw out our buddy Keegan. He and I butt heads on a lot of stuff, philosophically speaking, but he's one of my best friends here in the upstate. Michael Stathakis. He and I disagree on everything politically, but he and I will go grab beers as fast as anybody else. You can critique and criticize someone without hating them. The problem is if you do that in this format, where confrontation is supposed to drive what we do, right? You do that in this format, if you critique someone, you criticize them, it's taken as Rob Brown attacks Kirk. Rob slams Herbie over. Rob, I don't know, whatever other words you can think of. But Rob slams Herbstreit over comments on College Game Day. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is trying to tell Herbie some of the things he said don't work. And pointing out why in my subjective opinion. So I do like Herbie. This is not an attack on Herbie. I would not take Herbie off of Game Day. I would not take him off of College Game Day or calling college football games. And if Herbie ever wanted to come on the radio and have these discussions, I'd be thrilled to have him.
So you're saying in the vernacular of this age that you wouldn't cancel Herbstreit?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I would love to engage in a conversation with Kirk Herbstreit. But no, I would not cancel Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit has said nothing wrong. We just disagree with each other. And that's 100% fine. Not everything's a fight. Some things are a fight, but not everything's a fight. Anyway, clip number 1. This is the comments. These are the comments, and you're going to hear both Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard. If you missed it earlier in the week, these are the comments that sparked the conversation we're about to have.
What's the difference as a player in saying these games are meaningless when, Des, we played in quote-unquote meaningless games? I mean, I know you guys were here a lot, but I just don't understand. If you don't make it to the playoff, how is it meaningless to play football and compete? Isn't that what we do as football players? We compete. So I don't know if changing and expanding it is going to change anything. I really don't. I think this era of player just doesn't love football.
That's what I was about to say. We're dealing with a total different mentality when we're dealing with these student athletes nowadays, especially the football players. I mean, their whole mentality right now is about the championship, the playoff. We got to get into the CFB or the CFP. And because of that, they don't value the bowl games. Now, when we were coming up, Herbstreit and myself, like to go to a bowl game was a huge reward for a fantastic season. That's what it meant. It's like, okay, your team played this well, so you're going to be rewarded by going to this bowl game. You're going to get a ring. You're going to get swag. Now, kids don't really care about that. They have a sense of entitlement, and it's like if we're not going to the one that matters, then it just doesn't have as much value to them as it did us growing up.
So those are the comments that started this whole discussion, and I've given you my issues with them, right? I think it's unfair of Herbie to say that this generation of college football players just doesn't love football, especially from a guy who has kids in this generation of football, right? And then Des said they have an air of entitlement about them, and the problem is that the mentality is championship or bust. Lonzo, you ever played for a coach who didn't set the goal of be the best in the game? That'd be a silly thing for a coach to say, right? Hey, guys, Welcome to the team. Our mentality is not championship or bust. At least I wouldn't want to pay at that level of football. I wouldn't want to play. I would not want to sign a scholarship to a Power 5 program where the coach said, we're not really trying to win the championship here.
I did have a college coach come in at halftime and say, yeah, you're losing, but you were supposed to do that. It was kind of a pep thing, but he kind of went, yeah, you guys are the worst team in the league, but you're supposed to be the worst team in the league. So I that's as close to it as I've ever been. And it didn't work, by the way. We went out the second half and played worse.
I promise. If I was signing a Power 5 college scholarship and had the opportunity to play for one coach who said our goal is to win a championship and another coach who said our goal is to try our hardest and be our best. Like, that's a fine goal to have. You should do that. But you should do that with the intention of winning the title. That's one, by the way.
No.
That's one.
That's a half. My hand was on the button.
Second, the air of entitlement. You know what that sounds like to me? In Des, and again, I like Des too. I'd love to have Desmond Howard on to talk about this. What that sounds like to me is a guy who went, damn, I wish I'd have had NIL when I was there. You think Desmond Howard would have got a couple of NIL deals when he was at Michigan winning Heisman trophies?
Probably.
Yeah,
he probably would have. Yeah.
That sounds to me like a guy who's, they have it better to me, therefore they have entitlement, right?
I had
That's
this.
ridiculous.
Lee Rogers stopped by earlier. You weren't in the office to have this discussion because he had just heard someone on ESPN talking about it when he was in the restroom. And I mentioned to him that 10 years, 15 years from now, our way of thinking, his and mine, about the love of the game, the same way that Herbstreit and those guys think, no one will think that way
Yes,
anymore.
nobody playing college football loves the game.
It will be your mentality and the way your generation thinks. That will be it. And so
that is so dramatic.
We will
so dramatic.
We will truly be the dinosaurs that you look at us.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the Emmy goes too. That's so dramatic. You think Kirk Herbstreit's kids don't love the game? Do Kirk's kids love the game?
I would think that I'm not him or and I'm not around his kids, but I would think that firsthand experience being around the game and being around his kids, maybe that's where he formed his opinion.
Maybe it is, but I doubt it.
So you keep throwing his kids out there. We don't know his kids.
You're right.
They could one of them or two of them could be listening right now. They absolutely could. I believe they're still at Clemson. Maybe
the sweeping.
You're welcome to call in, by the way, and tell us if we're wrong.
Yeah, the sweeping generalization of these kids can get paid, therefore they do not like the game is a bad argument. It's a flawed premise. I love radio, Lonzo. I love doing this job. But if the boss came to me today and said, "We're only going to pay your rent and your food from now on," I wouldn't do radio anymore. Does that mean I don't have a love for radio? No, of course I do. Of course I do. It means that situation doesn't justify continuing to do a thing that I love. To say these guys don't love football because they can get paid for it now is not a logical argument at all.
I'm just trying to figure out how you can afford more than rent and food.
Oh, I don't. I'm just saying if they cut out the middleman. You know what I mean?
Got you. Okay.
All right. But Herbie went on a podcast and he wanted to add some stuff. And some of these clips are a little bit longer, so we're probably going to end up doing a couple of segments on this. But I think it's important because I think we have to try to me, I would like to get to a spot. And the reason I'm doing this is not because, I do know that Kirk Herbstreit listens to the show all the time. He's a big fan. All right, I know that. And yes, I want Herbie to hear my argument back, but I know a lot of you guys agree with Kirk Herbstreit because Lord knows you told me on social media when I called him a boomer. All right. Here's clip 1A, if you don't mind, Lonzo. Here is Herbie contesting that the conversation we just heard was taken out of context. Let's hear him out.
That was an 8-minute conversation. I wonder how many people who had a comment or a headline or one quote watched the entire 8-minute conversation between the four of us. There was a lot of things said during those 8 minutes. The one thing that I said that seemed to capture the headlines for people's own agenda, and that's all they went with, was players don't love college football the way they used to. Maurice came back at me and said, "Now that's a sweeping comment. Are you saying all players?" And I said, no, I'm not saying all players. I'm saying some players, that's their lens. I said, I've had, not only have I covered this sport in the front row for 26 years, I have 4 sons that are 21 years old and younger. I've watched, forget football, I've watched how they've grown up. I've watched how their friends have grown up. I don't know if there's anyone more plugged into this generation than me. 2 of my 4 boys play Power 5 football. So again, maybe there's somebody that's more plugged in or more can relate more to 21 and younger. I'd love to meet them compared to what I've done for the last 26 years. So I'm not out of touch.
So I've been in football for 26 years. Therefore, no one is more in tune with 21-year-olds than me. That's not how that works, man. You've been around them.
Well, who is more in tune than him?
21-year-olds. Why don't you listen to them? Why don't they get to talk? Right? Why aren't they invited to this conversation? Why does Kurt get to make a general sweeping statement about these kids and nobody's talking to them about it?
Have you listened to the entire 8 minutes?
Yes, I did.
Because I haven't.
Yes, I did. And I will give Kirk the benefit of the doubt and say that there were a couple times where he threw not all of them, but here's the thing. You know what that's the equivalent to? I'm not a sexist, but all women are like this. It's no, you don't just get to say not all kids, but then make a sweeping generalization about how this generation doesn't love football. We're dealing with, he specifically said in that quote, I just think this generation of kids, pregnant pause, don't love football. That's the quote, man.
So he gave an opinion, and
yeah, it's a bad opinion.
Well, yeah,
it's a bad opinion.
But it's his opinion.
Right.
And I hope, and I'm guessing, since there are many clips that he's backing down from it, I think if you give an opinion, a strong opinion, you stick to it.
You stick to your opinion till it's proven your opinion's bad. And then you change your opinion presented with a better argument. I asked somebody this past weekend. I was having a very heated conversation with somebody who's very close to me this weekend. And I said, after a long conversation, do you like to have your beliefs challenged? And she said, no. And I don't understand that mindset.
Well, if your beliefs aren't challenged, then you can't. Having your beliefs challenged should solidify your beliefs.
Or change them.
Or it could change them. But, I think it depends on what it is.
Right. So Herbie issued an opinion. I argue it's a bad one. That is my opinion. And you guys out there get to decide who's right and who's wrong. That's the fun of this gig. You guys get to decide that I'm right or I'm wrong here. But Herbie making a general sweeping statement about an entire generation of kids because they have the audacity of getting dollars for doing a thing they're good at that we all enjoy as a product. I don't like it. And to say you took it out of context, I played 1 minute and 45 seconds on both sides of that. 1 minute 45. I could have very easily just clipped, as a lot of radio stations did, by the way. And somebody asked, why'd you play so long of that clip? A lot of radio stations clipped Herbie going, I just think this generation of kids don't love football. And that's all they played. I gave you the lead up, the statement, and the outro to it because I wanted it to be in context. Herbie, we're not taking you out of context. It is so easy for people to say a thing, get called to the rug, and then go, that was out of context. It's not a get out of jail free card. I gave you the context, and the context was bad too. That's the problem.
See, I think if I were him and I gave that opinion, and I am of that opinion quite a bit, that you just say, hey, I gave my opinion. Prove me wrong. And it's pretty, I mean.
No, but you're the one making a claim that needs proof, not me.
Right. Well,
you're making a claim that this generation doesn't love football. I am pointing to CJ Stroud and going, you don't think that kid loves football? You don't think Joey Burrow, who had his knee exploded and came back to the game, he could have walked and been rich beyond his wildest dreams forever, but he came back to football. You don't think he loves football? You can make the argument, they like money more than football. 90% of kids playing football, Alonzo, aren't getting NIL deals.
I think not yet. I think College Game Day is enjoying all the publicity they're getting.
100% they are.
Yeah.
It's their job just like it's ours. I'm not mad at that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to call one of the most, if not the most influential voice in college football to the table for saying a bad thing.
And they do rehearsals and things like that. And someone knew he was going to say that, and they did.
That felt like a genuine moment.
And they didn't say, hey, now you can't say that. This is going to cause an uproar. It's probably the opposite of, you should go with your opinion because of what it does. It gets people all over the country talking about it, and then then hopefully those kids who are being told they have no passion for football can prove that they have it. But how do they prove it? I don't know how you prove it. Again, we've had this discussion.
Did the kids in the 90s, the kids when you were growing up, did they love and have a passion for football?
Some of them.
How'd they prove it?
Some of them.
How did they prove it? You don't know. That's my point exactly.
It's an individual thing.
My point is you make these general conversations. You go, I need you to prove that you have passion for the game. Well, first off, when you say.
But this whole thing. Bowl games. Right? This whole conversation is about kids skipping bowl games.
And I've got more in the clips, and we're going to play a couple more clips, but he also talks the NIL stuff too, right? Now, I'm going to give Herbie a lot of credit for something he's going to say here in just a minute. In fact, you know what? Let me skip ahead to clip 1E, if you don't mind. I was going to play this towards the end, but I'll play it here. Kirk did offer a bit of advice to players in college football, and this I respect and appreciate.
But to me, I'm a great example. I never went to one NFL camp. Never played in the NFL. Would have loved to. It was a big dream of mine. Didn't happen for me. So what am I going to do? I didn't have any money. If I didn't get a scholarship, I would have gone to the military. I didn't have any money. So I graduated, and I thought I was just falling to the business world. I didn't really have any dreams other than football. I didn't know what to do. And I stumbled into local radio because I love to talk sports. But it wasn't a goal of mine to work at ESPN. It wasn't a goal of mine, like I'm going to be on game day one day. I just stumbled into a passion, which was sports. Worked out for me because I really worked relationships, and I met people, and I talked to people, and I was humble, and I was polite. I tried to treat people well. And when I got done, there were people there that wanted to try to help me out. So I'm a living example of what I'm talking about. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about, hey, shoot for the NFL, man. Go get it. But while you're doing that, make relationships with people. Be courteous. Be the superstar on Saturday, but be the most low-key, low-maintenance guy off the field. And wait till you see how much that school and their alumni are going to want to help you. And I just feel like sometimes, not all opt-outs, but sometimes guys just don't put value in that. And definitely social media and people who are influencing them, they definitely don't put value in relationships, education, graduating, and what it can do for you long term.
So a lot of that, not all, a lot of that I agree with. It is important to build relationships. I've been trying to build relationships in my job for a long time. In fact, one of the reasons I got this job is because I have developed a habit of forming close relationships with local teams and organizations. Why do you think I've gotten so close with the Triumph, with the Swamp Rabbits, with the Drive? Why do you think I go to as many Furman Wofford basketball games as I can? Why do I do this stuff? Because I want to build those relationships so that down the road, I can help them, they can help me, etc. I agree with all that. But a lot of the other stuff Kirk talks about, I wonder if he would apply it to his own life, right? He started out in local radio. Local radio gave him a chance. He said, I stumbled into a passion. So did I, Kirk. So did I. Literally the same passion. You just happen to have a background and a pedigree that elevated you way higher than I can get, at least so far. So far. I wonder if when Kirk left his local radio station to take a job at ESPN for more money, if his radio station came out and said he has no loyalty, he has no passion because he's doing it for more money. I wonder if he had that. Or if to him, no, I'm passionate. But these guys that are doing the exact same thing that I did, just in a different field, they're not passionate.
I bet the radio station did say stuff like that.
But they did.
Not publicly.
Did it stop Kirk from doing it and jumping to ESPN in 97 or whatever it was? No, it didn't. No, it didn't. The problem that I have here, but a partial bit of the problem that I have here is the hypocrisy. Kirk, you're doing what you're doing because it's a passion, and I respect that because so am I. But you know what? There's another reason you and I are both doing what we're doing. What is it? It's the money. I bet you if ESPN came today and said, Kirk, we need you to take a 50% pay cut, and CBS Sports same and said, Kirk, we want to pay you what ESPN used to pay you to do the same job, which of those two jobs does Kirk Herbstreit end up in the next day? Loyalty be damned. right?
But you can't say that definitely. You can't say that definitely.
You're right.
It's
It's hypothetical.
definitively, you can't.
You're right. I can't, but I can. But I can. I would. You're right. I cannot say it definitely. I'd be willing to bet there's a probability marker of about 95% that if Kirk got his salary half that ESPN and CBS promised to give him a raise to come work there, he'd be on the SEC the next day. What used to be the CBS game of the week. Same day. Almost guarantee it. It's the hypocrisy that is the problem here, Kirk. Let's take a break. We'll talk more about it when we come back. I got a couple more clips from Kirk that I want to break down. And the reason I think this conversation is important because I know how many of you guys out there agree with him. Mark and I both put clips of this on the Facebook page, and you guys came out in mass picking a side. So I know there's a lot of you guys that agree with Kirk. I got some more sound from him I'll respond to next on the Rob Brown Show at ESPN Upstate.
Golf cart.
one Kirk Herbstreit. Let's go to clip number 1B, I think. Yeah, 1B. Herbie gave on a podcast, he kind of responded to the responses to the comments that he made on game day this weekend. I played him a little earlier. If you missed it, go to ESPNUpstate.com, go to the podcast section. This hour podcast will be up by 2:15 or so. It should be up.
Or so. It could be earlier.
Ish.
15 would probably be kind of late.
Yeah, 15-ish at the latest. And you can listen to those comments. But we responded to his response. It's a response to a response to a response to a statement. It's responseception, ladies and gentlemen. Herbie said that the conversation was taken out of context. He said it was one clip and people didn't listen to full 8-minute discussion. I did. I don't think it was out of context. I think Herbie recognizes that and I don't know what the split is. And I bet it's in different parts of the country. The split's different, right? I bet you in our area, it's probably like 30-70 against versus for Herbie's comments. And I bet in other parts of the country, those numbers are probably flipped. It's all subjective. But it wasn't out of context, Herbstreit. You said what you said. And it's okay. It's okay to walk it back. It's okay to go, I think maybe I was a little bit too generalized in my terms. I am not saying every college football player is in it for the passion for the game. I'm sure there are some guys in college football forever that play college football not because they love college football, but because college football gives them access to an opportunity they would not otherwise have. I'm sure there are some guys that couldn't afford to go to college, but they were able to play their way through college on a scholarship. And I'm talking down to the D3 level. I'm sure there are guys like that. Sure, guys in D1 too. But to make that sweeping generalization would be as ridiculous as me saying every college football player has passion for the game. No, I'm sure there are a bunch who don't. And I'm sure there might be some guys out there that maybe otherwise would have gone, I don't really want to go to college to play football. But they're looking and going, oh, you telling me I can make $50K a year by doing it? Yeah, I'll do that. Both generalizations are bad.
I knew some guys who played because their parents made them.
I'm sure.
Even in college.
I'm sure.
And one in particular, this guy was like 6'5", like 290, should have been playing on a higher level, but was at D3. And he was there just because his dad made him.
Right. But I guess that's exactly my point. To make a big sweeping generalization about any group of people is bad. It's always bad. There is never a time that it is good to make a sweeping generalization about a large group of people. Never. It's one of the things that I think's gone wrong in politics. Republicans are all blank. No, they're not. Democrats are all blank. No, they're not. That's a bad generalization. I know a lot of Republicans who are pro-marijuana reform. That's a sweeping thing that they're supposed to be against. I know a lot of Democrats who are against it.
I was going to say, you know a lot of them?
I know some of them.
Okay,
Did you get the point?
Trying to understand circles, that's all.
That's why people are upset, Kirk. Let's go to clip, what did I say, 1B? This is Herbie explaining more about what he feels is going on in college football that he believes is the problem.
There are two lenses or lanes that college football players currently are in. There is a lane that you leave high school football, your only goal is 3 years, and I'm going to the NFL. And that's, again, that's your prerogative, by the way. If that's the lane you choose to be in, whether you're at Ohio State, Texas, Florida State, USC, you don't really care. You're there for a pit stop. It's a transaction, bounce, 3 years, I'm gone. Okay. By the way, some coaches sometimes get on that same path. We saw the coaching carousel, whether it's head coaches bouncing around, assistant coaches bouncing around. So it's just kind of the world. And for certain people, they're just ready to move. Right. And for a player that does that, I don't think that they're really interested in getting to know the university or spending time there beyond just 3 years and out. And again, I don't recommend that view, but if that's how you're looking at college football, then that's your prerogative. There are other kids who look at it, have the same goals, going to the NFL, but while they're there, they kind of plant some roots. They make some relationships. They're humble about their experience. They're meeting people. They realize, hey, man, I don't want to put all my eggs into one basket in the NFL. I want to go to the NFL, and I'm going to the NFL. But when I'm done playing, I want either it's my education, my relationships that I've made here. I'm gonna have a community to fall back on that's going to help me when I'm 30. If I'm lucky enough to play for 8 years, I'm only 30 when I get done.
So I don't have a big problem with that, except for I don't understand why this is true of so many people, yet players are the only guy that Herbie, you know what Herbie sounds like? Herbie sounds like the guy that's like, hey, I know best for your future, so you should listen to me. And if you don't, you're a dumb. That's what this sounds like to me. And if I'm misinterpreting it, if any of you take a different message away from it, I'm happy to hear it. The Preferred Home Services text lines open at 71307. The phone lines are open at 844-GSP-ESPN. I'm open to hear if I acknowledge that there may be an interpretation of what he just said that I just missed, but that sounds to me like Herbstreit going, I have decided that this is the best way for you to handle your future, and if you do it any other way, you're dumb. I've had a lot of people that have come to me and tell me, Rob, the best way for you to handle this decision or your future is this. And some of them might have been right, and I didn't listen to them. Some of them might have been right. A lot of them have most certainly been wrong. Like, definitely been wrong. But at the end of the day, the consequences of my decision belong to me. Unfortunately for me, the consequences of my decision have led me here to this incredible area of the country that I am so happy to be a broadcaster in. There may have been somebody who gave me some advice that I ignored back in the day that if I had listened, I'd have been on game day right next to Kirk Herbstreit. Who knows? But it's my consequences. So I just don't understand. And in that same quote, in that same bite that I just played you a second ago, Herbstreit said, oh, and there are college football guys. Right, but I don't hear Herbie going on rants against Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley or any of the guys that have left one assistant coaching job to go to another, of which South Carolina and Clemson have both lost a guy off their staff in the last 2 days who went to greener pastures, in their opinion. And I didn't hear Herbie do a segment on either one of them saying, oh, well, they're not building relationships. They're not appreciating the culture of that school. They're not appreciating what the head coaches that hired them can give them in terms of relationships down the road. The only criticism I hear is players who leave schools are bad. Players who opt out of meaningless bowl games are bad, but they're not meaningless. Rob, really? As I asked the other day, what bowl did Pittsburgh play in? And nobody knew. It happened less than 2 hours away from us in Atlanta, Georgia, and nobody knew. But Kenny Pickett's the bad guy for opting out to protect his knees to make it in the league. I don't hear you ranting about Brian Kelly. I don't hear you ranting about Lincoln Riley. I don't hear you ranting about the coaches that have left Clemson or South Carolina to go to Oklahoma and Florida in the last 2 days. I hear you ranting about the players and saying they lack a love of the game. Does Brent Venables lack a love of the game? Or are you going to tell me that that's apples and oranges? Why? If you say that, and again, if that's your argument, I'm happy to listen to it, but explain to me why it's okay for Brian Kelly to ditch Notre Dame, but Spencer Rattler sitting out doesn't have a love of football. I can't agree with it. Can't agree with it. All right, let's see a couple of texts that have come in, and then we'll get to some phone lines. A lot of texts that have come in so far. Let's see here. If you play, nope, that's from older. Didn't Herm and Dez only play in top-tier bowl games in the era? The CFP didn't even exist when they played. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When they played, if you were in the Rose Bowl, you still had a chance to win a championship. You had a couple of losses, you could still dominate the Rose Bowl, and maybe the AP gives you the championship. And Kirk, I'm sorry, don't give me, well, that's not how I approach the NFL. You weren't good enough for the NFL, dog. Don't tell Kenny Pickett what he can and can't do, who is good enough to go to the league when you weren't. It's not, you haven't been there, man. Let's see. Rob, you can tell you don't have children, and you can also tell you're a little bit out of touch. It's true. Most kids today have a huge sense of entitlement. Back in the day, folks had to really work hard for what they got now. Things are given and handed out to people who really don't deserve them. Get over it. No, I think, with all due respect, you need to get over it. Kids have an opportunity that kids in the past didn't have. That's not inherently bad. Do you know what every generation thinks about the next generation? Every generation thinks that the next generation is the one that's ruining it for them because they don't do it. Times change. Guys who used to have to get their horses ready to ride to work every day thought guys with cars were lazy and entitled because they didn't have to put the work in to get the horse ready to go to work.
Especially since the horse was a lot faster.
Model T, baby. 1 horsepower. Every generation thinks the next generation is the worst. It happens historically. Trust me, I'm revolving into that mindset with TikTokers. I promise you. Every generation thinks that. I hear that all the time. There's entitlement. Everything's given out. How many kids do you know that were just given a football scholarship? Just given. None. None of them. I have known damn good players who didn't work hard at football, and they either didn't get a scholarship or they got one to a school that was way less prestigious than they could have played for if they tried. That is an overwhelming mentality of the older generation that you don't have any evidence for other than I feel it's this way. I feel it's this way is not an argument, man. The next generation's entitled. All right, tell me why. Participation trophies. Well, first off, there's nothing wrong with awarding a kid for putting a hell of an effort in a season that came up as a loss, A. And B, if they were handed participation trophies, who the hell got the trophies ordered? You did, not the kids. If you want to give me evidence, data they're entitled, I'm here to listen to it. But I've never heard anybody do that. It's always, I feel like they are entitled. That's not an argument. That's a feeling. And they're irrelevant here. I got a lot more texts. I got phone calls. Let's take a very quick break. If you're on the phone line, hold there. I'm coming straight to the phones when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate.
I feel like you're wrong.
I feel like you're wrong. How long is this break? Ballpark. Take your time.
Well, if I take my time, then obviously it's not very long. 3.5 minutes.
Okay, we're good. You're a pot stir. You'd like to pick and choose what words do generalize. You trying to turn into a shock jock. I believe you may be an attention whore. Do they feel like it? Would you say, and answer this question honestly?
All right. So again, when you say answer this question honestly, it says, sometimes I don't believe how you answer a question.
Sometimes people answer questions dishonestly in order to spare the feelings of the person who asked it. So without concern about my feelings. So honestly.
I don't think I could ever answer a question without concern about your feelings. I don't think I could do that.
Okay, I'm telling you to here. Do you think that I do occasionally do shock jock segments?
I would say that no one is on talk radio that doesn't. You can't be on talk radio and not do things for shock value. That is what talk radio is. It's giving a strong opinion about something, which could be shocking to someone who doesn't hold that same opinion. So shock jock is just, it's.
Do you think I'm doing this segment as a shock jock segment?
No, Rob. And there's nothing worse.
Stream before, but I think I'm going to today.
Well, as we know, my audio on the stream is not that good. So
1 hour, 42 minutes. Let's hope it picked up. That was great. Oh, it did. Your mic went out. Damn it. What Lonzo said was,
I can't help it. I wasn't even that close to the microphone. It's not my fault.
I wonder why it does that. It's probably because we're putting 2 input feeds into one line. We really need to ask them to give us individual mics in. I don't know if that's even possible.
They've accommodated quite a bit, and they will continue to do so because this is
an award-winning broadcast,
and it's a new medium that we're working on. So I mean, and
Lonzo said to me, I asked Lonzo based on a text that we got a minute ago.
Why don't you just wait and say it again on the air?
That's true.
I mean, you know,
fair enough. Because I'm absolutely reading that text on the air. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great text.
I also hate when radio hosts say, let me be completely honest with you here. Because when you say that, what you're saying is, okay, sometimes I'm lying to you, but right now I'm not.
But I think that's for the same purpose, right?
But it's kind of a crutch thing, and it's not necessary.
You never bent the truth to a family member to spare their feelings based on how you actually feel?
All have fallen short, including me, all the time.
That's what I'm saying. So there's nothing wrong with saying, let me be honest with it, because what you're saying is, let me say this to you with the understanding that I know that it may hurt your feelings, but I need to tell you it anyway, as opposed to, no, babe, you look great in that dress, right? Let me be honest with you. That dress isn't your best look.
Why don't you just say, let me make you mad?
But that's what I'm saying, right? You're saying it is so important to me that you know the truth here.
If you, hey, do I look fat in this dress? Yes, you do. Because you're the answer and you want someone to make you feel good.
The lady friend the other day asked me that question about something she was wearing, and it genuinely looked good on her. But in her head, she's like, I look frumpy in this. And I'm like, no, you look great.
Which is my point.
Yeah. All right, coming to the phone lines here, but a texter has written in and said, quote, you're a pot stirrer. You'd like to pick and choose what words you generalize. You are trying to turn into a shock jock. I believe you may be an attention whore, end quote. Lonzo, would you say that this segment from me is from a place of a shock jock?
What is the definition of shock jock? My definition of shock jock is talk show host. Because you're on here, and whether it be this station, whether it be WORD, whatever talk station you're on, you are on here to say something that evokes thought or evoke.
The response you gave on the stream. The response Lonzo gave on the stream was,
I tried to be a little more intellectual.
No,
I apologize.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't go.
No, Rob is this annoying about this topic off the air too.
He absolutely. I see that he's going to be talking about this. It's like, great, here we go again. And he's so wrong, and I can't prove that he's wrong, and I hate that.
Robert is hanging on line one to chat with us a little bit about this. Robert, thanks for holding, buddy. Really appreciate your time. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, man. Glad you took my call. First time calling you. I love your show.
Thank you, buddy.
Alonzo, just kidding. Okay, so you were saying that he's making general statements, generalities, and you can't make generalities, but because not everybody is this or that. But that's the whole definition of a generality. I'm just trying to, take up a little bit for Kurt, because you're saying that he's making generalities, but the whole definition of a generality is not everything is going to be that way. It's just generally speaking, the trend is, or, majority or whatnot. But, I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Robert. I get what you're saying. The problem that I have here is coming from a position of power that Kirk Herbstreit has. When he says generally, first off, he's making the assumption that his generalization is true. And I don't think that it is. That 90% of kids who play football aren't going to get any NIL deal. And to say that they're going to transfer, maybe they're going to transfer so they can play somewhere else because they love to play football. I accept your definition and your application of the word generalization here, but it's still bad in the way that he did it.
Okay.
Appreciate the phone call, Robert. Thank you for checking in. Let me get Benny. Is it Benny? Benny in here to talk a little bit about it. Benny, welcome. Good to have you, big dog. Appreciate it.
What's happening, man? See, I kind of look at it like this: is Kurt? He knows what's going on. He knows that, back in the 90s,
you could have a whole bunch of bowl games and they all meant something because anybody could be a national champion with the polls. Now it's not that. So if players are opting out, they see that there's no value in it for them personally. Other players are still playing. So he's just protecting. He's like, okay, these players are not playing and it's upsetting some people. But it's these bowl games, because of the playoff system now, a lot of them don't really matter anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. The taxslayer.com bowl doesn't matter, Benny. I said yesterday, I used the illustration yesterday, and I think it was a good one. Kenny Pickett sat out of the bowl game, and everybody was all mad at him. How unprofessional, how this, well, he lacks loyalty and dedication to his teammates and blah, blah, blah. And it's fine if you feel that way. And then the question that I asked of everybody who had that complaint was, hey, what bowl game did Kenny Pickett's team play in? And Benny, like, none of them knew, right? They're all talking to me about how much it mattered. But when I asked them what game they were in, they didn't know. That game was an hour and 45 minutes from here in one of the biggest college football arenas in America in Atlanta, Georgia. And people didn't know what game it was, who they played, who won the game. Don't tell me it matters when it doesn't matter even to you.
It doesn't matter. And my second point is, and I'll leave it at this, there's players transferring and opting out. And then you got these coaches at the same time, they're moving from team to team, and athletic directors and booster club people that can just pony up the money and fire them and just get rid of them with little to no, reason. But you get upset at players for wanting to better their situation, which is just, I've never gotten that. And I guess people are just upset because they see change coming and it's not stopping.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Appreciate the phone call, Benny. 844-GSP-ESPN. I got a lot more texts. I'm going to take a break. I'll read them when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
Accuse the boss of doing something. That's fine.
Oh, drama.
Oh, my legal ID just suddenly comes up outdated.
You have to change the date or it won't play.
Well, there's only one other person who would mess with it.
Right.
And that's him.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything.
Right.
So, well, if he outdated it, he did it for a reason. If he's the one who did it, and if not, maybe we can figure out why. I mean, I got a few minutes before it has to play. It's red. It's not supposed to be red, Rob. Red is bad.
Red's bad.
I also love when people say, I love the show, but I don't like Lonzo, as if that's really going to bother me. I think it's funny. There was a time when it really would have concerned me.
Breaking news sponsor. I got to change.
But it's just the same thing. I've met too many people who do say that they like me, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet the people who don't are fans of a certain school, which means that's what I'm doing. So, you know. Or they're pro somebody else on the station, which means they have to be anti me, which is just not true. It's not true. Let me send him a text just in case he didn't see my email.
Call 800-BUY-DEL. That's 800-BUY-DEL. This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo. I bought football tickets for my husband's birthday. Now I'm in a football bubble. All I see online are articles and ads about football. I hate feeling manipulated.
Football. I told you I like football.
I like football.
What the? The phone just suddenly not connected. Okay, that's weird. Oh, it's lost.
All right, wrapping up hour number 2. You guys have absolutely blown up the Preferred Home Services text line, 71307. Start your text with ESPN. So when we come back, we'll read through those because there's some good text. There's some not so great text. There's some interesting text, some thought-provoking text. Send your text to 71307 on the Preferred Home Services text line. We'll get to them when we come back. We'll keep this Herbie conversation going. I got 2 more clips I want to get to. And, are you going to do the whole day on this? No. We got Twitter trending topics at the end. But you guys.
And we didn't do the first hour on it, so it wouldn't be
Also
the entire
true.
day. So, yeah.
But look, I know a large percentage of you guys agree with Herbstreit. So I think it's important to provide the other side of the argument and see if anybody changes their mind. We'll try that when we come back. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. Together, we are the cast and crew of the Star Award-winning Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. Conspiracy.
Carolina Panthers getting back on the practice field as they get ready for the regular season finale against Tampa Bay coming up on Sunday. The expectation is that quarterback Sam Darnold is going to be the starter for a second week in a row. Clemson basketball, they lose to
That was weird. It showed up red and it played anyway. I was willing to take a risk to see if it played, because if it didn't play, it just wouldn't have played. And at the same time, the phones went out. I don't know if that's coincidence or what. It probably is. This is weird. Gremlins. There's gremlins around here, and now the phone is ringing. Let's I'll have to wait. Just a moment, Cola. Rob Brown Show, what do you want to talk about? Okay, no, I can't answer the phone. So if you're calling, I'm pushing the button. It's just it's not working. Yeah, it won't work. I don't.
That's.
Well, I'm gonna unplug it in a second and plug it back in as soon as I get the next hour podcast going. All right, phone reset. Come on. There we go. You're resetting.
Offsides with Mark Ryan now 3 to 7 p.m. on ESPN Upstate. The College Football National Championship presented by AT&T. Kirby Smart and third-ranked Georgia face number 1 Alabama, who's looking to repeat as national champions. It's not really about what you want, it's about what you're willing to do.
All right, now it's working. Weird.
Monday night at 7 on your home for college football national championship game, ESPN Upstate. And check this out.
By the way, I'd love to see a good design of a Shock Jock T-shirt. We might need some of those.
Don't hate it. Get on it, Keegan. Get on it, Keegan. The third, the final, the best, the money hour. The Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello, Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. I am the effervescent shock jock, Rob Brown. You know me. I strive for shock. That's what I aim for. If I haven't shocked you today, I haven't done my job.
I need to look up effervescent and see if it really applies here, but I don't know how to spell it. So is that with a V or an F?
With a V. Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes I just say words that make me sound smart just to see if.
I think effervescent means refreshing.
No, it's an F.
Yeah,
It is an F.
it's refreshing. It's kind of,
It means enthusiastic.
Does it?
Yeah.
Or are you just saying
Vivacious.
There? Okay, I don't know about that.
No, I'm telling you, that's a fact.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It's a fact that you're vivacious or
And
that
effervescent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It also means full of bubbles like a soda. It's true. It's both of those things. SAT word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking about the comments of Kirk Herbstreit. Lonzo and I were having a conversation off the air. He said, why do you keep reiterating that you like Kirk Herbstreit? He said, when you say it over and over, it makes me feel like you're trying to convince me of something that's not true. And I explained it this way, from my perspective. It's kind of like when you say, to be honest with you. Lonzo said if you start a sentence with, to be honest with you, it implies that there are situations in which you are not honest with that person. And I think as human beings, we all do that to some degree, right? If your partner asks, do I look fat in this? And you think that your partner looks fat in that, you don't go, yes. You don't say that, okay? You don't say that. What you might say is, to be honest with you, in which I'm insinuating that I understand that this may upset you, but it's more important that you know the truth. And even if you're mad at me, it's worth you knowing the fact. Yes, it's not your best look.
There's also nothing wrong with saying, yeah, don't wear that.
Sure, to some people. And there are some people with partners, if you said, yeah, don't wear that, they're going to, you think I'm fat. It's just a reality. There are times, I think, for all of us in which we maybe don't present our full opinion on a thing because we're trying to spare the feelings of the person that we are talking to. And so when you say, to be honest with you, you are implying, I understand that what I'm about to say to you may actually hurt your feelings, but it needs to be said anyway. When I repeatedly say, I like Kirk Herbstreit, it's because I like Kirk Herbstreit. But we have created this method of communication in America where if you critique someone, Everybody else goes, oh, Rob slams Herbstreit over comments from College Game. That's not what I'm doing.
You know, I used to like Kirk Herbstreit, but then he has shown a propensity to root for a certain school that I do not. So that school right up the road from here.
So his affinity for a school you don't like is greater than his heroism for your school?
Would you call it heroism?
Just to make it more dramatic.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, just to make it more dramatic, I would.
Yeah. His affinity does it. It's with him. Yeah, it bothers me.
All right. So Herbstreit said that we're in a generation of football players who don't love football. And I took offense to that. You snowflake. Yeah, I took offense to that. I don't like it. Kids who transfer schools because of whatever reason they have doesn't mean they don't love football. It may mean they don't love football at the school that they're at. And that's okay. I love radio. I have also worked for a radio station that I really didn't like. And after I started working for him, I was like, this sucks. Everything's terrible. Doesn't mean I disloved or I fell out of love a radio. It just meant that this situation, I don't love this radio. If you're a 5-star wide receiver and you get recruited to a college that has a fun and gun offense, and after your freshman year, they fire that coach and bring in a guy who runs a triple option so they don't throw the ball anymore, you probably don't love that style of football, do you? No. So you transfer to a place that has a fun and gun offense where you're going to get utilized and you can show your talent. Does that mean that wide receiver doesn't love football? No. It might mean he doesn't love triple option football, but it doesn't mean he doesn't love football. And the problem that I have, and we had a great call. It was, I forgot who the call. Robert was. Robert called in a few minutes ago and says, Kirk's talking about a generalization, and a generalization means that the thing that he's saying is generally true, although there are exceptions. And I concur with that. That is correct. That's a good call from Robert. Problem is, I don't think the generalization of it is true either. 90% of kids, 95% of kids will not transfer. They will finish where they started. So already your argument for why this generation doesn't love football falls apart at its premise.
Sample size is really small right now. We're just at the beginnings of this. So 5 years from now, it may change. It may not be the percentage that you're saying. It may be a greater percentage.
It might be. A, still doesn't prove the premise true. It still leaves the premise up for debate. And B, I'm not going to allow you to get away with a generalization now based on the slippery slope fallacy of what might be in 5 or 10 years from now. If in 5 years from now, the transfer percentage is at like 33%, then yeah, we'll have the discussion at that point. But right now, it's absolutely not.
It's not a slippery slope when I'm talking about we'll have more stats, we'll have more data.
No, I agree with you. Correct. The sample size will be larger. But to say the sample size will be larger and perhaps we will have a larger number of transfers, you can't do that. I agree with you. We should wait for a larger sample. In every situation, you should want as much data as you can get to be able to draw a conclusion. But then you're immediately drawing a conclusion based on the fact that we'll have more data. You're assuming where the data is going to go, and I don't think that's the right way to do it. By the way, 844-GSP-ESPN, if you are calling, we are working. We're having an issue with the phone right now. Lonzo is over there in an arm wrestling match with it. Hopefully he'll win at some point, and we'll get you guys on the phone line. Text line open, though. The Preferred Home Services text line's open at 71307. Start your text with ESPN. Here's some texts that have come in over the last hour. Text says, didn't Herbie and Dez only play in top-tier bowls in their era? The CFP didn't even exist when they played. Yeah. How many bowl games do we have now? 60? 60 bowl games? You're telling me they all matter? They're all invaluable? No, they're not. Yeah, but Dez and Herbie were going to the Rose Bowl, and even with 2 losses, you could still be considered national champions if you went in there and decimated your opponent. Yeah, they did matter at that point. Texter says, Rob, you can tell you don't have children, and you can also tell you're a little bit out of touch. It's true. Most kids today have a huge sense of entitlement. Back in the day, folks had to really work hard for what they got. Now things are given and handed out to people who really don't deserve them. Get over it. No, sir or ma'am. You get over it. You are doing exactly what Herbie has done and made a generalization Do you think this job in Greenville was handed to me? Hell no. I had to take I had to not just take what little resources I had to be able to apply for this job, take time away to put together a resume and demo for this job, take money out of my own pocket to fly up here, stay here for 3 days, audition for this job, to maybe not get it. I had to borrow money to no. You are making an assertion for which you have nothing to back it up other than I feel this way. I believe this. Scholarships are not easy. They don't just hand them out. I promise you, I really wanted one. I really wanted to play college basketball on a scholarship. I outworked every guy on my high school basketball team. But do you know what happened? I sucked at basketball, so I didn't get one. That is a generational thing that happens. Oh, the next generation doesn't have it as hard. You know what? The next generation shouldn't have it as tough as it was for you, in my opinion. In my opinion, we should all be collectively working together to leave a better, more open world for the next generation to enjoy, so that they can can use that privilege to work to make it easier for the next generation.
Man, I need some inspirational music. I'm going to have to work on that later.
Bring it, man. Because I'm right. Texter says, Rob, how dare you not want to entertain me on the radio for free? Now, in fairness, one of the things that's happened when I was between radio jobs in the past, you know what I did? I started a podcast. And I put all my work up on the internet so that everybody on the internet that wanted to be entertained by me could do it. But you know why I did that work? Do you know what I put in the extra effort to create the Rob Brown Show podcast when I didn't have a radio job? While it is because I like to be able to entertain people, and I hope that I entertain some of you with the show, the reason I did it was so that I could keep my name relevant. And if another radio job came open I was qualified for, I could see I'm still broadcasting. That's why, because it's hard work. These kids know it's hard work. Very few kids are skipping out of one school because it's hard. That's the thing I've heard before. They're just leaving because it's hard. Find me one college football program that it's not hard to play for, and I'll show you a really bad college football program that those kids don't want to play for. Dez, Rose Bowl and Gator Bowl. Herb, ironically, Herb played in all meaningless bowls except one Citrus Bowl. Another texter, you are a pot, so I read this one already. I'll read it again. You're a pot stirrer. You like to pick and choose what words to generalize. You're trying to turn into a shock jock. I believe you may be an attention whore. No, I'm really not. As Lonzo so eloquently pointed out in the last segment, I'm just as annoying about this topic when I'm not on the radio. This is not shock jock radio. I don't think I'm saying anything shocking. I may exaggerate some things here and there just to kind of increase the drama of what I'm saying on the radio. But at the end of the day, I genuinely feel this way.
You know, the opposite of this is NPR, and you don't want them doing that.
There's many factors that influence the budgets of fire departments worldwide. Thanks for listening to the Rob Brown Show on NPR. I'd be good on NPR. I'd be real good.
Dude, you would die from boredom.
Velvety voice.
You would die from boredom. You wouldn't make it through one show.
Texas says neither Herbie nor Des said anything about NIL in that clip. Rob equated their statements to NIL. They said kids in the past were honored to play in bowls. Maybe they were. And bowls also meant more.
But what it comes down to, it is about NIL because they mentioned the swag. They mentioned the things they got by going to the bowl. Those don't matter anymore because they're already getting paid. So back in the day when they weren't legally making money, you go to a bowl. You get paid whatever your stipend was. You get that swag bag with, watches and really cool stuff that you couldn't afford. You get to go to an amusement park that maybe you never would get to go because you couldn't go there. It mattered more then, but now because of NIL, that has been made irrelevant to quite a few players. Rob is pointing out not all of them, and I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to say, well, paint with a broad brush. I can say generalize, by the way.
Yeah. How dare you not take this free pair of headphones and t-shirt and instead take money for the thing that you do? The audacity of these guys.
Beats is money, man. It's the same thing.
And yes, by the way, in the 8-minute segment, which I did watch, Des and Herbie both did mention NIL as well. Text says, in Rob's perfect world, you would program the players into EA Sports NCAA football, pay them for NIL, program all games in domes, and he gets digital refs. Yes! Yes! Give me robot refs. I'm here for it. And Lonzo, pay the robot refs for the work they do. It's not free, okay? All right.
What do you pay a robot ref with?
Oil? I don't know how to robots. All right.
There's an engineer's in here. What do you
I see
pay?
that.
What do you pay a robot with?
By the way, if you were trying to call and you can't get in, we do have
Bitcoin. Duh.
Bitcoin, yes. Dogecoin. We do have Tony in here. He's gonna, I think, is gonna try to figure out why the phones aren't working. So give us a minute. We'll get those back up. Those of you trying to call. I asked if Herbstreit would be willing to take half of the salary he makes at ESPN to stay there, to be loyal to that program. Texter says CBS, so you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah, right. Rob says, I'm sorry, you're too dumb to get what I meant.
That's pretty much the entire show right there.
It's not. I'm saying people bring their own their own presuppositions into the discussion. And if somebody disagrees with them, they think, well, you either hate me or you're dumb. No. Like it. Didn't like it. Texter says, I wonder what the injured Ole Miss quarterback thinks of all this. Yeah. Is Matt Corral commendable for playing in his bowl game? Absolutely. Absolutely commendable that Matt Corral decided to suit up and play with his boys. Absolutely commendable that he had that level of loyalty and dedication to the program. However, Matt Corral may have cost himself 10 or 15 draft picks with a busted ankle, depending on how severe that injury was. And if he cost himself 10 draft picks, that's about $7 million out of his pocket. Don't tell me that's insignificant, because it's not. Texture says, let's see, I agree with Herbie. I don't understand why what he said is such a big deal. It's his opinion. He has a right to his opinion. Get over it. Yes, you have a right to your opinion, and I have a right to tell you your opinion's bad and harmful. Do you understand?
His opinion makes you so angry.
Because it's bad and harmful.
Is it? How's it harmful?
Because
I'm trying to figure out how it's harmful.
It takes people like this texter who agree with him, who now have a crap attitude towards college football players for no good reason. For no good reason.
And that affects the college football players how?
If half the country decides that they're all selfish, give me elitist attitude guys, yeah.
And
That's right. Lonzo, if somebody in a very high position in the Democratic Party was to say all Republicans are selfish, greedy jerks, that's his opinion. He has a right to state it, and I agree with that.
You're acting like that hasn't happened before.
Right. It happens in politics on both sides of that aisle.
Yeah,
it
daily.
Sucks. Do you agree that it sucks, or are we just cool with it?
I think it's their opinion, but in their heart of hearts, they believe it.
Right. And that sucks.
Yeah. Well,
and that sucks. When your opinion is bad and also you commit to that position, it sucks.
If everyone agreed on things, what a boring world that would be.
I'm not saying we have to agree. I'm saying we have to stop forming those opinions on bad content, bad stuff. No, I don't care that your phone ringer is BB-8. I respect it. Or was that R2?
It's R2D2.
That was R2, wasn't it?
All right. I'm
That's why Tony's in charge.
I'm sticking offended right now.
Yeah, he should be. Hey, it's my opinion that was BB-8.
And your opinion was wrong, Rob. It was wrong.
We'll end this segment on this text. With all transfer and NIL talk, all I know is Jake Paul is a great fighter, and a hot dog comes with mustard, chili, and onion.
And Duke's mayonnaise.
All right, more texts. Our phones are working again. Our phone lines are working again. 844-GSP, ESPN, 844-477-3776. If you've been trying to call us now. We'll take your phone calls in the next segment of the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
Although what he just did, I did too, and it worked, and then it stopped working. But I didn't get a chance to tell him that. It keeps resetting. I mean, I'm watching it reset. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's building wide or just in this room.
Yeah.
But we're the only ones on live right now, so.
For South Carolina basketball, they get beat by number 9 Auburn 81-66. South Carolina, they are going to return to action coming up on Saturday, and they are going to match up against Vanderbilt on the road. Download the Score app today, lightning fast sports alerts, so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Hawley.
ESPN Upstate is your home for the 2022 College Football National Championship game. All the chips are on the line as the number 3 Georgia Bulldogs try to take a bite out of the top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. The Dogs are out for revenge. Saban tries to further cement his college football legacy. Who will win out in this rematch of SEC Titans? Coverage starts this Monday night at 7. The Dogs versus the Tide. The College Football National Championship game plays exclusively on ESPN Upstate.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were looking at your phone while driving, let me say it again. Seriously, put down your phone. That is so unsafe. If you didn't do stuff like use your phone while driving, you could save money with Progressive Snapshot. But saving or not, just put it down. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't looking at your phone, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or Florida.
I need to be able to work from anywhere, so I need to have supplies. Well, everywhere. It's possible at Staples.
I need the same setup for my home as I have at the office, without twice the cost.
Also possible, because your local Staples store has the tools your business needs to get work done. Now get 40% back in a Staples store bonus when you buy any 2 Anchor toner cartridges. Explore what's new at Staples.
I know one thing. I'm glad I didn't have my headphones on when that tone hit.
Oh my God, that was
it looked like it hurt.
Horrendous.
I'm sorry you were in pain, but I enjoyed the look on Tony's face when it happened.
One of our listeners just texted me this. Ooh, got the wraparound.
Breakfast biscuits are loaded with a fresh cracked egg, cheese, and your choice of bacon or sausage. Did we mention the part where Wendy's biscuits are happy button? So don't take a chance with those other guys. Bet on a better breakfast. Wendy's bacon or sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
I'm Pablo Torre, host of ESPN Day, where every morning we present the best.
I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm very interested in listening to the Enzo Amore podcast.
Who's he doing it with? Or is he just doing his own?
Just, apparently he has his own podcast, and I never noticed it before. Is he full on Enzo? I think that just is who he is. So. Would I be able to listen to the entire thing? I don't know. Right now, I'm listening to Jericho interview the founding members of Stryper, and I just find it very, very interesting.
Stryper.
Yeah, he was a big Christian rock fan back in the day, or Christian metal, as he says. And they're talking about how they were labeled and how they couldn't get in certain places. It's very interesting.
All right, a couple of texts that have come in. Kurt's just mad because his kid is not getting the press and attention as other players. No, I here's the thing. I genuinely believe Kirk Herbstreit is coming from a place of sincerity and he's being very genuine with us. I truly believe that Kirk Herbstreit is genuinely concerned about college football. I absolutely do. I don't think this is a thing that Kirk's just making up as he goes. I think he feels this way. I'm just arguing that why he feels this way is not good. Texter says, Herbstreit played ball, raised kids, has kids that play ball now. I think he has experience and reference on the side of his opinion that matters, and more people are likely to believe him because of those factors. No, I agree. Again, I think Kirk's being very genuine. And that's one thing I like about Kirk Herbstreit. He always, to me, seems very genuine in the way that he presents what he's saying. I've never had a problem with him being genuine. But this is the old, well, because I've experienced this thing, I know better than you. Most of the time, that's true. A lot of the times, that's true. But it does not mean he's capable of having a bad opinion, right? Doesn't mean that he's definitely right. Texas says that's exactly what happened with Demaryius Thomas. Georgia Tech ran a wide open offense, got a new coach, and literally changed the triple option. Demaryius Thomas still had a promising career. Sure he did, because Demaryius Thomas was like top tier NFL talented. But a lot of kids wouldn't be, right? Who was a wide receiver behind Demaryius Thomas? That was recruited because of the wide open offense that then never got a chance because a triple option offense runs with one wide receiver. Would he have been bad or not had passion for transferring schools? Doubt it. Texter says, no, Rob, perhaps is a suggestion or hypothesis. More data in 5 years will no doubt be good, but it is not incorrect to use perhaps to start a hypothesis that may or may not be true at the time. I agree with you. To a point. What we don't do is say, we're not going to do this thing now because perhaps the data will suggest in 5 years that insert bad effect here. You can't do that. You can absolutely say the data says this today, and perhaps in 5 years it'll say this, and that's fine. But I can also say the data says this today, so perhaps in 5 years it'll say the exact opposite. Your argument of in more data in 5 years, perhaps we will see more transfers. Sure. But I could just as easily say perhaps in 5 years after new data, we'll see less transfers. And those are equal potential outcomes, right? And because they are equal potential outcomes in either direction, we don't change what we have based on your belief in what the data might perhaps show versus my data, my perhaps. We can only act with what we have right now. And right now, the claim that the transfer portal is harmful to college football, I do not find the evidence to believe that that is true.
Okay, I feel like I'm back in high school, senior year, the first 2 periods physics class where I slept with my eyes open.
Debate club, baby!
No, it's physics. I'm asleep. My eyes are open. You just went way, way too technical there. But you're right. The data could go either way, but it's trending in a certain direction, and that could change. And the trend is that more and more kids are going to transfer and I believe that's going to continue. It's going to become the norm because it's free agency, and that's just what it is because it's a business now. It's no longer about student athletes. Stop with that student athlete stuff. It's a buzzword. It doesn't matter anymore. It's a business or paid employees.
So are you good if tomorrow they say football players in college don't have to go to class anymore? They don't have to go to school anymore?
Might as well. I mean, how many of them actually do? And yeah, I know that was another general, that word.
Texas says, Rob, you're doing a damn fine job. Thank you very much, sir or ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate that greatly. Another Texas says, Rob, I think players should play in their bowl games, but I totally understand why they don't. Yeah, I'm cool with that. If you feel that they should play because they have some level of dedication or passion for their team, sure.
Oh, Rob Brown Show.
But the understanding of why they don't is what I appreciate. The understanding of why Kenny Pickett elected not to play in his bowl game, to me, is what's important here. I think you can agree or disagree with someone, but what's important is that you understand where they're coming from, right? I think so often, even in sports, we get to this point where we accept or dismiss someone's argument based on how we feel about it as opposed to whether or not we truly understand what they're saying. We truly understand the point that they're making. I can understand your point and still disagree with it. But can you understand why Kenny Pickett wouldn't play in a bowl game? The Peach Bowl, by the way, a historical bowl. A bowl that has a history attached to it in Atlanta.
But meant nothing because it wasn't for the national championship.
I mean, again, have we as fans not created that reality? With a lot of help from the broadcasting outlets. But have we as fans not helped create that reality in which it makes more sense for Kenny Pickett to sit out? Of course we have. Of course we have. Let me ask you this question. Coming up on Monday, we are going to be carrying from start to finish live play-by-play of the national championship game in college football, right? Coming up on Monday, we have the entire start to finish pregame, play-by-play, postgame of the national championship of college football. Now, if all the TVs in South Carolina all broke at 7:45 p.m. on National Championship Monday, and there was not a working TV within 5 hours of any of us, and so the only form of entertainment you had was the radio, how many of you would be tuning into that game, would be coming to ESPN Upstate to listen to that game? I suspect the answer is probably most of y'all. Most of y'all listening care that much, right? How many of y'all tuned into any of the other bowl games that we carried live coverage of on ESPN Upstate? Honest question. How many we carried? How many bowl games did we carry, Alonzo? Stab of the dark? Probably 9, 10?
Sounds right.
We'll say 10. We carried 10 bowl games worth of play-by-play over the past 3 weeks. How many of y'all tuned in to those bowl games? None of you. Yeah, a couple of you.
I was going to say, don't do that, because there are some guys who are out there driving for a living or work in a warehouse, and they have their station tuned to 97.7 or 97.1, and they've ripped the knob off, and that's what they're listening to.
I'm talking more for people that are like, you're staying at home watching TV. How many of you? I doubt very many. Texas said, just say if you're not good enough, transferring is not going to help you hone your craft. If you're trash at South Carolina, you're trash it out at South Carolina State. Well, that's not true, is it? That's not true. If you're not good enough to play in the Southeastern Conference, does it mean you're not good enough to play in the Sun Belt Conference? Or the MAC? But it's not always about competition either. I mean, if I get recruited as a 4-star running back to go play at South Carolina, and I'm there for a year as a freshman, and the next year they recruit the prodigy 5-star who is immediately plugged in as a starter, and I know I'm not going to get PT, right? Maybe I'm good enough to still start at Tennessee. Maybe I'm still good enough to start at Washington, but I'm not good enough to start at South Carolina. So your argument is I should toil away knowing I'm not going to get play time for the off chance that something happens that I do, as opposed to go to a place where I know for a fact I'm going to play? Sounds to me like I love playing and I want to go. That's where all this is coming from. Because to me, it is harmful to tell these kids that transfer that they are bad, which is what Herb's doing. They're bad for wanting to go to a situation that is better off for them. Is that not the American dream that so many of us claim to love? To work hard, to get to a better place for ourselves. Is that not the American dream? As far as I know, that's always what I was taught it was. Hard work, perseverance, dedication to get yourself to where you want to be, to get to a better place for yourself. What you guys are saying is no. Toiling away in a situation that's worse for you because ... reasons. And then you attach a bunch of ambiguous, abstract concepts as to why. Can you give me one non-abstract reason why it's a good thing that a kid should not be allowed to transfer? Give me an abstract reason, not perseverance, not show you can grit it out, not because the team's going to need you, they committed to you. Give me a not abstract reason. Because they committed to you is about the best argument you got. But I can promise you, if they can recruit somebody that is better than you are to play next year, you're going to the Pine, man.
I am curious about something, though. So let's say that you got a decent NIL deal where you're at, but you're not playing, or you are playing and you can get a better NIL deal somewhere else, do you transfer just because you can make more money? Because it's a business now and you can make more money with a better NIL deal. And let's say you're at Ohio State and let's say that Alabama, the business there goes, yeah, I know you're making this from these guys, but I can pay you more if you come here. What's to stop that from happening? And is it okay?
Well, here we can come up with a real life example of that. What's the school? Is it Arizona? There's a school where a business has. Is it Texas? I think Texas. Every Texas Longhorn offensive lineman on scholarship will get $50,000 annually for use of NIL.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I'll let you have one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Carter talked about this when he was hosting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, that's enticing linemen to come there. Right.
Here's a fun thing. I want all the Gamecocks fans that are right here with me right now. I want all the Gamecock fans that are right now going, that's awful. That's bad. Okay. Spencer Rattler did an interview with GamecocksCentral.com. You know what GamecockCentral.com does? They take money from another organization called the Garnet Trust. Have you heard of the Garnet Trust? Probably not.
I have not.
Okay. The Garnet Trust is an organization that crowdsources funds from fans to pay players for media interviews, attendance at autograph sessions, and events. This organization of South Carolina fans in Columbia, right? Some of y'all South Carolina fans, I want you to really listen to this part because you were mad a second ago when you found out that kids at Texas were getting paid $50,000 a year for NIL. That's more than I make, for the record, for like actual job.
All right. This whole thing that you're going really bothers me because what you're doing is you're saying if you believe something, it changes if it's your team. And
are you saying people don't do that?
I don't believe that the vast majority does that. No, and I think you are implying that they are.
I'm not implying it. I am outright stating it. In my experience of 15 years in doing this,
another
it is
generalization.
No. In my 15 years of doing it, the majority of people that I interact with are very good at finding reasons why a thing that happened at another school is not bad when it happened at theirs. Give you the example. I know a lot of LSU fans that were adamantly against Brian Kelly because of the coach that he was at Notre Dame. And now that he's in LSU, he's acting a fool in Baton Rouge. And the LSU fans are coming out in droves to defend this guy. Yes, they do. So Gamecock fans, your school has an organization that is raising money from you, from fans, to pay guys like Spencer Rattler to show up and sign autographs and do media interviews. Is that bad? Is that bad? Because that's why it's part of the reason Spencer Rattler is at South Carolina.
It's legal now. So it doesn't matter if it's good or bad or not. It's legal now. It's legal to be done. So
Texas says, Rob, is this all you're going to talk about today? If so, I'm going to change the station. Get over it. Yeah, I'm over it. That's all we're talking about it today. When I come back, one MVP NFL voter has said that he won't vote for Aaron Rodgers for one reason that has to do with it off the field. I'll tell you what that was, and we'll see if he's got a good argument when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate. Yeah, I think that was a saturation point.
Or did you just get a text from Steve saying, okay, I'm waiting.
I'm waiting for my Aaron Rodgers talk.
He's not going to be happy with what you're going to say, more than likely. So
here's exciting for those of you that are on the stream. The James Webb telescope has just expanded its secondary mirror, which means it is operational, ladies and gentlemen. That's awesome.
You said you couldn't hear that.
All right. Now, it was the same guy calling. So it could have just been that guy, but he called like 5 times, answered every time. I got nothing. And I saw no audio coming out on his, because you can see the audio when they're talking.
Oh.
And I didn't see anything. And I didn't hear anything. You didn't hit it, or it didn't work. No, that's on air. There you go.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Check one, check one.
See, there's no audio. You can't see anything.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let me see which server it is, and I'll reboot the server.
Again, what you did, I had already did that. I rebooted it, and it still didn't work. It's been rebooting on its own.
Yeah, I was plugging in TPTs, and I think I bumped a wire when I did, because I put their prod room back online.
Hey, it's Charlie James. It's time to call QC Kinetics. Non-surgical regenerative treatment for joint pain. We're talking lasting results using natural biologics. No surgeries, no pain meds, no steroids.
You're connected to number 10.
This is really exciting stuff. Regenerative restorative treatments that actually encourage your body to heal itself using highly concentrated natural biologics. Patients are raving about it. For hip pain relief, knee pain relief, shoulder and back pain relief. Don't let them keep giving you steroids, and don't let them tell you surgery is your only option. A free second opinion at QC Kinetics. Do it now in the magic.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Without pain. Call
Hello,
a
hello,
local
hello.
medical professional at QC Kinetics now. 864.
I'm not seeing any audio either right now.
Yeah, it definitely will be a problem if Mark has guests, and he generally does. So
I don't mind breaking it for Mark.
remember, we are on stream, but I appreciate that.
All right, let me go reboot the server.
Okay.
You may see it go down and come back up again.
Okay.
While I reboot it. All right, sorry, guys.
No need. I appreciate it, buddy.
Restrictions apply. Research shows that people remember radio ads with lots of sound effects. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance and will pay for what you need, here are some easy sounds. Saving on home insurance is no laughing matter. Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. The money you save could change your life. It's time for you to take your insurance choice seriously. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
All I gotta say is, I didn't break it. You broke it. Steven, again, the solution is for me to back off the mic.
I don't think it is.
No, that's the given solution.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes. And our engineers are excellent, and they're very busy, and sometimes priorities. And although we love streaming, it's not been made the priority that you probably think it should be. I don't know if it's breaking news or not, but Teddy Bridgewater's been placed on injured reserve. So he's not playing the last game, which is okay with me, I guess. I mean, I don't think it would have made a difference, but.
High level intellectual conversation. I was told that's bad.
Yeah, you'll never catch that stuff on this side of the glass.
All right, the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. So there is a National Football League MVP voter, and I will tell you that he's out of Chi-Town, the Windy City, baby, Chicago, Illinois, who has said that he is ruling out Aaron Rodgers as an MVP candidate. His name is Hub Arkush. He is one of the 50 members of the media. The AP Press gives a vote for the MVP award that the NFL treats as its official MVP and awards at the honors banquet at the end of the year. Arkush was asked why he would not vote for Aaron Rodgers, and he said it's because he is, quote, a jerk, end quote, and a, quote, bad guy, end quote. He said, quote, I don't think you can be the biggest jerk in the league and punish your team and your organization and your fan base the way he did and be the most valuable player. He has been the most valuable on the field. Yeah, you can make that argument, but I don't think he is clearly that much more valuable than Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp or maybe even Tom Brady. So from where I sit, the rest of it, why he's not going to be my choice. Do I think he's going to win it? Probably. A lot of voters don't approach it the way I do, but others do who I've spoken to. But one of the ways we get to keep being voters is we're not allowed to say who we are voting for until after the award has been announced. I'm probably pushing the envelope by saying who I'm not voting for, but we're not really supposed to reveal our votes. Arkush says he is free to change how he chooses who is the MVP. He said, quote, there's no guidelines. We are told to pick the guy we think is the most valuable to his team. And I don't think it says anywhere strictly on the field, although I do think he hurt his team on the field by the way he acted off the field. They're going to get the number 1 seed anyway, but what if the difference had come down to the Chiefs game where he lied about being vaccinated and they ended up getting beat? I can guarantee you I will not be the only one not voting for him. I think the way he's carried himself is inappropriate. I think he's a bad guy, and I don't think a bad guy can be the most valuable guy at the same time, end quote. Interesting from Arkush, out of Chicago, Illinois. It's a weird spot.
I would just throw this up, okay? Scott Hall was a bad guy, but the most valuable guy.
Hey yo. No, I think there is a great argument that Aaron Rodgers is the MVP, but I think I can also make a great argument that Cooper Kupp for the Rams is, that Jonathan Taylor for the Colts is, and that Joey B. Joe Burrow is for Cincinnati, although Jamar Chase is giving him a run for that dime.
So what this guy did is he made it all about him, not about Aaron Rodgers. Look at me. I'm not going to do this because I disagree with him. Good for you, man.
I actually disagree. I actually think he has a good point. I think he has a good point.
Yeah, okay.
I think he has a good point. I think it is fine to say that Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, was an off-the-field distraction for the Packers, at least coming into the season, right? Do you contest that?
About whether he's going to play for them or not?
No. Yeah, about that.
No more so than any other player that you didn't know if they were going to play for the team or
I
not.
agree, but no other player that's in the MVP race, right? I'm talking about specifically for this award. If you asked me to list the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, Aaron Rodgers probably at the top of that list right now. I'm not arguing with that. I'm not arguing that he is very valuable to the Packers. I'm saying I think this guy has a point.
So most valuable player, sorry, the last part is player.
Correct.
Player has to do with playing on the field. It doesn't have to do with whether you agree with his political affiliation or anything like that. It's about his play on the field. You take Aaron Rodgers off that team.
That Packers team's a 6-win team.
Absolutely. That makes him for sure the most valuable player on his team and possibly the most valuable player in the league.
He's certainly the most valuable player on his team. Not arguing that. There's some other guys on that team that are very good, but he is certainly the most. And I would argue he is. I would say if he wins the MVP, yep, go with it. Go with it. I agree with this guy. The point that I'm making here is I agree with this guy's reason for not voting for Aaron Rodgers, because I think Aaron Rodgers has been a huge distraction to the Packers, but he's also good enough that they've been able to basically just kind of breeze on by that.
But again, the distraction was the media got mad. Was there ever a distraction? Did we hear anyone being disgruntled on the Packer team? Because I don't recall hearing any of that. Did we hear anybody go, I would just be quiet and come here? No, you didn't hear. All you got was support from his team. So how is he a distraction for the team?
I disagree. I don't think all we got. I think there were a number of players who sounded frustrated to me in the bites that they gave about
sounded. So you took by their enunciation that they were upset,
yes,
or did
Lonzo,
did they absolutely say?
Did of course I did. That's how we communicate. That's like 80% of communication.
Yeah, same people. Lonzo.
Texas says, Rob, this guy is just pissed Rodgers is not vaxxed. As a vaxxed person, this is getting out of hand.
That's absolutely what this is about. It's without a doubt. And again, dude, get over it. You're mad because you don't believe this guy should be MVP when it comes down to, and you mentioned some other guys that definitely should be up for it, but Aaron Rodgers is going to win it. And some people are going to be mad because of the vaccination, not because of his play on the field.
Sure
because any of those guys would love to have Aaron Rodgers on the team that they root for.
I am sure you are correct. He is going to win it. I'm sure you are correct that there are some people, but I would also argue that, yes, the whole thing about lying about being vaccinated and having that turn into a circus around him was a problem.
Well, we started this show off talking about lying and about being completely honest.
Like when people call it a
Yeah.
holler when it's built on the side of a mountain. It's not a holler,
It's
Lonzo.
absolutely a
It's
holler.
not a holler.
You're just from Florida, man. What do you know?
We don't have hollers.
That's right.
We do have hollers, but it's just like, I bring another beer. That's our holler.
That's redneck. There's a difference, you know.
Twitter trending topic after this on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
Not just an advanced safety system.
Yeah, that's gonna be an after the show request, Steven, unfortunately.
That's what you can get with an all-new 2022 Lexus NX. To discover more about this next level crossover, visit lexus.com/NX.
So I don't know if the phone is fixed. I'm not sure.
Let's find out.
Well, he's still working on it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Diesel can just get if there's a guest, he can get him on the cell phone and just hold the cell phone up to the microphone because that's great quality right there.
Is this one for the board off?
Yes.
Hello.
There we go. I see level.
South Carolina quarterback Dak Joyner has accepted an NIL deal to become the Duke's Mayo Bowl ambassador. Contract is set to be worth $5,000.
I had to unplug TPT's phone that I had just plugged in. I don't know why that took the whole freaking system down. It makes no sense. So the right guys can just deal with it. I'm not breaking it.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
You slowly remembered at the last moment again that we're on stream. Maybe my tone made him remember. Terrell Owens wants to replace Antonio Brown. Okay.
Who? T.O.?
Yeah. He said,
look.
They just was showing the quote. Look at all the chances he got. I could do that. Who's older, Terrell Owens or Tom Brady? Are they about the same age? He was in his 40s, but I don't know.
He's 48.
Okay. All right. Wouldn't that be go out there at 48?
Win a Super Bowl at a 48-year-old wide
They
receiver.
ain't winning the Super Bowl this year, but still.
One topic. Pick a good one.
All right, time for Twitter trending topics. I just want to say Loretta Lynn was the coal miner's daughter that was born in a house on a hill in Butcher Holler. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, which was probably in a holler, not on a mountain.
On a house, on a hill in Butcher Holler. All
Does
right,
the hill count as part of the valley?
you can't be on a hill and be.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're on a hill, you're not in the valley, which means you're not in a holler.
Butcher Holler, man. That's what it's called. That's absolutely what it's called. And if you want to go, you go right ahead.
No, she's just a coal miner's
Going
daughter.
against Loretta Lynn's like going against America.
I agree. I wouldn't dare. Triple H is trending. Why, Lonzo?
Because people miss him.
That's correct. NXT misses him. Oh, they had a good show
That
last
was good.
night.
It was a good show.
Good show last night. It's just that half of NXT's over killing it on AEW. That's all. That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. We turn, we spin, they hand the ball off to offsides. They're up next. Appreciate you guys sticking around tomorrow. No Kirk Herbstreit talk on the show tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see. There were like 3 sound clips I didn't get to. We'll see. Probably not, but maybe. He's Lenzo. I'm Rob. We are the Star Award-winning Rob Brown Show right here on ESPN Upstate. Later, brother.